I'd like to convene the meeting, call to order the March 2019 Committee on Accreditation meeting. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Jose Luis Alvarado, Cynthia Amos, Jomeline Balatayo, Suzanne Borges, Kathy Krisha, Katrine Chakowski, Deborah Erickson, Cheryl Forbes, Bob Fraley,
Here.
Anna Moore, here. Gerard Morrison, here. Iris Riggs. We have a quorum.
Great. So we do have a quorum. It's good to see you all again. Hope you had a safe flight in. No holdups, aside from HOA meetings. Go ahead. What's that, sir? Okay. Just as a reminder, this meeting is not being streamed live. However, staff has posted the link on the website so that any individual who would like to listen and watch the meeting live while the meeting is underway may do so. It is very possible that we may have some individuals watching or listening via technology in real time. Also, the meeting is being recorded, so it's very important to please use the button on your microphone to activate it, and the green light is on. That means the mic is hot, and then when you're done speaking, just push it again to turn it off. And if you don't do that, those listening on Zoom will not be able to hear the comments, and they will not be able to be recorded. Just as a reminder, as we go through today, we have that green handy sheet as a guide, so please keep that nearby as we go through our deliberations. We'll move on to item 2. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the January meeting? So moved by Committee Member Riggs. Is there a second? By Committee Member Erickson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. It would be appropriate for any committee member who was not in attendance to abstain. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 2019 meeting? So moved by Member Erickson. Is there a second? By Member Alvarado. All in favor, please say aye. And all those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4. Item 4 are the co-chair and member reports. Any members have anything they wish to share? It's a very quiet one.
This time next week, I will be in New Zealand.
Ooh.
Super excited about that. I will be checking out their educational communities.
Of course you will. Well, have a safe and enjoyable flight. What island? Oh, okay. Wonderful. All right, we'll move on to item 5. Anybody else want to match that? Can anybody top? Doesn't look like it. Okay, we'll move on to item 5. Item 5 is staff reports. Staff does have a few items it would like to present. Ms. Hickey.
Sure. Well, welcome everybody. I was a little worried yesterday after they grounded those flights. I didn't know who was on one of those planes and who wasn't, and who would be able to, have to reshuffle. But glad to see everybody here. We just have a few items today. A couple of things I want to talk about is the May meeting will definitely be 2 days. So we have a lot of site visit reports. We're right in the middle of site visits. Our consultants have been out in the field and are working really hard. Same with all of our team members. So it will be 2 days. We'll start at 9 on the first day, and then we'll end by noon on the second day. So wanted you guys to know that. I worked on the agenda to make sure because I knew you would ask me. June possibly might be 1 day. I'm still trying to get some of the follow-up reports and try to figure out if I can make that all fit on 1 day. Because I know people are really busy in June too, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll know that pretty soon. So we'll have 2-night hotel for you available next time. And I know that Michelle was sending out something to make sure we have a quorum for May, because I know we're missing Deborah, right? And I don't know who else we might be missing, but so we want to make sure we have a quorum. We had to change hotels next time. So you are at the Best Western Center on 8th Street. If for some reason you don't want to stay there, please let us know ahead of time so we can not make a room reservation. You can make your own room reservation, but we can only reimburse you with for the state per diem or the state rate. So that's an option for you if you don't want to stay there, if you can find a room. Let's see, what else I wanted to tell you. So we have some exciting news in the induction world. The regulations have passed that say 1 induction experience per candidate. That makes that really clear. So we will be issuing some guidance or, letting the field know what that means. We're meeting tomorrow to put that kind of communication together. So, but essentially, if somebody already holds a clear credential and are going back to get another preliminary, we will automatically award them a clear for that area. So it's exciting, and it makes it really clear, and hopefully Induction World will like that, because they've been trying to figure out what do they do for the last year and a half while the regulations have been pending. So we will be able to provide some communication very soon on that. PPS standards, I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to mention the good work that Lynette and Karen Sacramento have been doing with the PPS groups. As you know, we have social work, we have counseling, we have psych, and we have child welfare and attendance. And that group has been working really hard. We had a final conversation with the social work folks yesterday to kind of come to some agreement on some remaining issues. But it looks like it will be up for adoption, these new standards, at the next commission meeting. We're kind of looking at preconditions right now, but for the most part, the standards are in really good shape. So it's really good work, because the last time the standards were adopted was 2002. Is that right? 2000. So they're almost 20 years old, and we know how much has changed in that field since that period of time. So we're very excited about that. A lot more focus on mental health, a lot more about all the things that people are dealing with today: suicide prevention, chronic absenteeism, all of those really important things. So we're really excited about it. We do need to figure out a transition plan for the programs. That's still work to be done to figure out. They will get a couple of years, obviously, as we always do, to allow the institutions of higher ed to rethink some of the curriculum or field work or whatever they need to do in order to and to go through their institutional processes that need to take place in order for them to be aligned with the standards. So, Lynette, what else would you like to say about that? Yeah, really good work on the part of Lynette and Karen to work with these groups. One of the big challenges was what to do with child welfare and attendance. It's a really interesting thing, and you may want to say some more about that, is that what's happening out in the field, from what we can tell, is that really administrators are doing that work, even though that's an option within the PPS credentials. And so there was a lot of conversation about, well, how do we ensure that the administrators are sufficiently prepared for that work when the language related to that work is in the PPS standards. And so there was a lot of conversation. What the group decided to do was embed child welfare and attendance into all three of those PPS standards, so that there's more preparation on the part of all PPS candidates. And then there may need to be future conversations about what to do about the admin standards. But Lynette, anything else on that topic?
No, I was just going to say that they were embedded not only for the reason around administrators, but also that there's very few programs out there right now who offer CWA, and there is a need. So the discussion ended up with embedding it in each of the specialty areas, with the option of taking additional hours within each specialty area directly related to CWA. And so that they'll have more of an opportunity to learn more about CWA. It affects each one of the specialty areas. So
right. So that was an issue, is that the field is telling us there's a big need for this, and yet there's very few programs. So that's the solution that the group came up with, and I think it's a good one. So it'll hopefully open it up to a lot more people to get that authorization. So. Let's see, what else do I need to talk about? I think that might be it. I'm going to toss it over to Erin to talk about the work of the accreditation system.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good morning. So things are moving ahead, full steam ahead, thank goodness. I haven't flown off the hamster wheel yet, as Catherine kept warning me, just keep it moving. So all the program review is done for next year's site visits. Common Standards submissions were due at the end of February, February 28th. Those have all come in except for 2, and those institutions had been granted extensions previously anyway, so that's fine. Staff is doing that initial review that they do, which is just to kind of go through and click around on some of the link, make sure that we'll have access to those things, and that most of it works. Obviously, they can't click all of the links, but they kind of scour through. If there's any issues, they'll reach back out to the institutions. I would say 98% of the team lead and common standards groups have been finalized. That's kind of a constant shifting, moving process, but we've got most of them in place. And the first common standards review, the first of 5, starts on April 5th, and that'll be here in the commission. And we are putting the fall site visits sort of right up front, giving them some priority so that we can get those in place as soon as possible. And what else? Oh, preconditions for red and blue institutions. So fourth year for red, first year for blue are coming in March 31st. Those will be coming in. And then, of course, staff does the review of those. So that is what's going on with accreditation.
And Erin is learning very quickly that we do have to replace at the last minute team members as things happen in life. So we've had to probably replace maybe 5 people this year, including a team lead who had to be called across the country at the last minute. So we've, that's just part of the nature of it. And, some of the teams have just done without an extra person. And so the existing teams work harder. Gay experienced that recently. So we're really grateful for all the team members out there. They're doing a really good job. Gay, did you want to talk about, Katie's not able to be with us today, but maybe you can talk about both TPA and APA to the extent you can. I know APA is your focus, but.
Sure, but we do a lot of the same things. I just told Bob earlier before the meeting, we are very happy for TPA to lead in the front because Cal APA is following behind and doing check that, change that as we go along. So the TPA that has been in existence is just transitioning, where the APA world is learning a whole new set of ball field rules and things. So we are just finishing up training our assessors for the 2 cycles for TPA and 3 cycles for the APA. We have enough for this spring to do all of the 18-19 year. And then as soon as that's done and finished, we'll gear up and start training again for the next year as well. We are targeting the first week of May to have the next year's supply out, all the changes that we needed, places where we were vague or the rubric asked for one thing, but it's not in the directions. We keep finding those because it's new. So we are doing those revisions currently and hope to have them to the field in the first week of May because June 1st starts the new year towards, it's not July, it's June 1st in this case, towards the new applications where it's a consequential year for the Cal APA, and the TPA continues on as is. And then the first submission dates will be through, I think, the mid-June. I don't have that date quite in my head yet. But then it will be a constant submission, but there are deadline windows. So if the deadline window, say, is June 5th and July 4th, if you turn yours in June 6th, thank you very much, but you're not going to get it until 3 weeks after the deadline window of July 4th. So it sits there and doesn't have a real push to be 3 weeks until the submission window deadline comes out. April 11th is going to be the big reveal for our Cal APA. We have been assessing them since January and trying to get enough behind us to let everyone know. So the institutions and candidates will get their completion scores. They don't mean anything to them, but it helps for learning and next year's preparation for candidates and things like that. And we have about 3 more submission windows before this year finishes out. So Bob's one of our lead assessors. Anything you can think of that I haven't covered?
No, I'm lead assessor for music. No, it's just been a whirlwind, and then every time we meet with the lead assessors, there's new information coming. So we're in the first year of being operational. And it's been really valuable. We're running some shortages in some of the subject areas for assessors. So if anybody is really interested in doing that, I suggest you go onto the CTC website. And every week they have is it PSD News? Yeah, within there it has information and a link to find out more about the TPA and if you're interested in becoming an assessor. But I would just echo what Gay has said. It's an ongoing process. It's fun. I enjoy doing it, and I would encourage anybody else who is interested in doing it to get involved with it. It's a good process.
So one of the remaining things that we need to do now that things are shaping up to look like what they're going to look like for the next few years is working with the staff that's been working with them to figure out how we incorporate the scores into the accreditation system. And so that helps us understand something about the institutions, or at least helps inform questions, those kinds of things. So that is work that still remains to be done. We've been kind of waiting until things shuffle out to the point that they're looking like what they're going to look like. So I think we're almost at that point, and so we're kind of excited to do that. Katrina.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Bob said too, as a score for the Cal APA. I mean, for me, the evidence-based shift to describing quality practice is one of the primary benefits of this whole process. And I do agree with you that often the content of these samples is very revealing about what educators in specific locations are thinking about and concerned about, and the solutions that they propose have significant merit, I think, for consideration both in their own area and then statewide. So I think, your comment about learning from what it is that these people are submitting is definitely worth pursuing.
Yeah. Excellent.
And I'm assuming that the institution will get more specific feedback related to the TPEs, because really the first TPA was useless to the institution except to look at our pass rate. We had to have our own way to digest the data to get at a point where it could feed program improvement. So with all the rubrics, there's got to be a way to feed back to the institution what our results are in a more specific way.
That's my understanding, is what the intent was all along. So we'll see how that gets implemented, but that was a big focus, and we kept saying that the institutions need to know it and the accreditation system needs to know it. So others that have been more intricately involved might know more, but is that the case?
That is the case.
APA?
So they will get individualized scores for each of the rubrics, as well as a consolidated score for the institution as well. The candidates only get their own.
Will the institution get aggregate data by the rubrics, not just a pass rate, but...
Yes.
Yes, okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
A huge jump in progress, isn't it? Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we need to figure out how that's going to happen, and mechanically, logistically and all that, as well as what do we do with it once we have it. The institutions obviously can analyze it, but what do we do it, at the accreditation level, and how would teams look at it and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that work still to be done.
And the one thing I forgot was standard setting. We are taking this year's submissions to look at what the field is producing to set standard scores in spring, TPA first, and Cal APA later on. But that's both coming up in the spring and the summertime for Cal APA.
I think that's probably it for staff reports. Does anybody else? You've been doing a lot of CTE stuff. Do you want to mention that, Jake?
I was going to say one other thing about Cal TPA too, that there's going to be the 2 implementation conferences. I'm not sure if you mentioned that. Right. So there's going to be an implementation conference for IHE faculty, university supervisors, master teachers, and Cal TPA coordinators. One in Southern California, one in Northern California, and they're coming up relatively soon. So April 18th at University of San Diego, and then May 14th at William Jessup University up here. So, yeah. And then, so for career technical education, so Bob Locks and I, so another consultant here, we've been working with the Department of Education and also with WestEd to coordinate a 30-member CTE work group from throughout the state. And actually, we even have someone who is from the Southern Regional Education Board, who's worked on CTE issues in some of the southern states and has some really sort of cutting-edge new developments in the way that they're recruiting and retaining and credentialing CTE teachers. So we've been meeting, we met in January, February, and then we meet March, April, and the plan is to have a set of recommendations, sort of big ideas on how to take steps forward in CTE credentialing, and that will be sort of jointly put together by the department and by the commission, and then also West Ed will publish the report of those recommendations.
One last thing I wanted to mention. I think I mentioned last time that Phillips Graduate University is withdrawing from WASC, or they had some sort of stipulations, and they reached a negotiated agreement with WASC, and they will no longer be WASC accredited. So that said, they had PPS credentials. We have been working with them on a candidate-by-candidate basis to make sure all their candidates are finished by April 30th. There will be a couple of candidates who have finished almost all completion, and they're working with finding another institution for those 2 or 3 candidates that are remaining. So they've been working in really good faith to make sure that they do everything they need to do to be done. So as of April 30th, we will no longer be accrediting them. So I think that is it. Jake, do you know if are they available? Okay.
We're good? Yep. Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you all staff for the updates. Appreciate it. Let's move on to item 6. Item 6 is the program approval recommendations, and the item is organized into 5 sections. So we're going to move through the items section by section. All the action items are listed sequentially in Part 1, sections A, B, and C at the beginning of this item. Part 2, sections D and E are for notification purposes only, so no action is required. So we begin with section A, which is program approvals. There are 3 institutions with 3 new programs for approval. Any recusals? I can't speak today. Any recusals on section A? We have 1, Committee Member Erickson. Okay, we'll begin with the items that we have. Multiple subject intern, Davis Joint Unified School District. And do we mention we do have a representative from Davis, so if any questions would like to be asked of the representative, yeah, please come to the table. Would you please identify yourself?
Sure, I'm on here. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Juliana Sykes. I'm the director of the Teacher Intern Program for the Olusolano Center for Teacher Credentialing, which is the program that Davis Joint Unified is the LEA for.
Okay, great. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah.
So we have Davis Joint Unified, then we have the Teacher Induction of Butte County Office of Education, and the Bilingual Authorization Spanish from California State University, Bakersfield. First, does anybody have any questions for Davis Joint Unified School District? She made the trip here. Yeah, Lake's not that far away, but hey, it's traffic,
20 minutes.
Okay, no questions. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Committee Member Borges. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second by Committee Member Krisha. Cressy or Krisha? Krisha. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
Enjoy your lovely parting gift on the way out.
Thank you all so much. We so appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. Congratulations. Section B, program withdrawals. Section B is for action, and there are 2 types of withdrawals listed. One is for withdrawals requested by the institution, and the second list of institutions are those for which the programs were inactive for over 5 years. There are 2 program sponsors withdrawing 2 programs. California State University Northridge Preliminary Administrative Services Intern, and Concordia University Preliminary Education Specialist Mild Moderate Intern. So this section is for an action. Is there a motion? So moved by Committee Member Erickson. Is there a second by Committee Member Riggs? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to item section C. These are program requesting reactivation, and there is 1 program sponsor requesting reactivation of their teacher induction program. That's Chino Valley Unified School District. Teacher induction effective March 14th, 2019. And do we have the representative on video? Not
See it
yet.
here. They're just showing half and half. Oh, half and half. Okay.
Hi, is Teresa
Can we-
there? Can you hear us? Teresa?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Okay, great. Thank
you.
you. So we have on, it sounds like audio, but not yet video.
There, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, great. There you go. All right. So we have Representative Teresa Shockley, the Teacher Support Coordinator. Wave your hand. We know which one is you.
I'm Teresa.
All right,
this
great.
is Isabel Brennis. She's
Hi.
a director in our district in Human Resources. She's here to join me.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Any committee member have any questions that you'd like to ask of the team? Yeah, Committee Member Riggs.
It's really just a question about when is their accreditation visit?
Oh, that's a very good question.
question.
Actually, you know what? I think I have to recalculate their cohort. So, and I don't have an answer to that today, but I could go figure that out and get you that answer later. What they did was they were withdrawn for a number of years, and they have essentially all of their leadership has changed. Now. So we're talking, because we did have, and Teresa knows this, we did have issues with Chino responding to any requests for information, any requests for, the payment of our invoices, those kinds of things. All new people now at Chino Valley, been very responsive. They've gone through, they were inactive during the period that Induction went through all the standard changes, so they have done everything they need to do to be essentially reapproved so that we know that they're starting the current set of standards. Karen Sacramento worked with them to make sure everything was all aligned with the current standards. So they should be starting ground up, but I have not done that one detail, which is when the next visit is. I think I will have to reevaluate where we want them to have the next site visit time period, and I haven't done that yet. Yeah.
Thanks, Cheryl. Committee Member Alvarado.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. So just a quick question. In your teacher induction program, this is a program designed for individuals who are employed by your district as teachers of record in their own classroom. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you both. Any other questions or comments? Okay, as a reminder, this section is for action, so is there a motion? Motion by Committee Member Amos. Seconded by Committee Member Alvarado. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for joining us, Chino Valley Unified. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Okay, thanks. I'm so excited.
Cool. We had no idea. We couldn't tell. That's great. Go get a Starbucks. You deserve it. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Or a fine beverage of your choice. How's that? Okay. All right. Thanks again. Congratulations. All right. Moving on to part 2. The next 2 sections, D and E, are for notification purposes only. No action is needed. Section D, programs transitioning, and there are no programs currently requesting to transition. Section E, programs moving to inactive status. This section is for notification only, and no action is required. There is one program sponsor moving one program to inactive status, and that's from Dominican University of California. Their education specialist added authorization, early childhood special education, effective March 15th, 2019. All right, moving on to item 7. Item 7 is the initial program approval for new program sponsors, and there are no initial program approvals for new program sponsors to report at this time. Moving on then to item 8. Item 8 is a discussion of late documents, and there are no late documents to report at this time.
Well, that's the first time ever.
Isn't that? It's like something's going right.
Aaron, you mentioned that there were 2 that hadn't come in. Those were both medical emergency kind of situations, so we've granted them a short reprieve.
Okay, great, thanks. So any late submissions that will come forward will be included in the May agenda for our meeting here. Item 9 is time certain, but it's LA County Office of Education. Do we have the representatives here?
They're on Zoom.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Great. So we are a bit early.
I think they're ready.
Great.
Thank you,
Good
Jake.
morning. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
morning,
We
we do
can't
hear
see
you.
you. Hold on one second. Let's see if we can see them. We're working on the technical aspect of it.
Okay. That's what they're trying to do.
They were up earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
They need to push the video? Okay. There you go, Lako. All right.
There we go. All right, thank you. So we're on item 9, and item 9 is a discussion of the 7th year report from the Los Angeles County Office of Education. Consultant Jake Schuler will introduce the item, and joining them via video technology are institutional representatives Tom Leveron, Project Director, Beginning Teacher Programs, Tom, is that you? Give a wave.
Yes.
All right, great. And then we have Sarah Bedler, Coordinator of the General Education and Induction Program.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have Linda Matzek, the Designated Subjects Credential Coordinator.
Good morning.
And then good morning. And Nancy Wagner, the Designated Subject Contact Consultant. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. Does anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none. Mr. Schuler, will you please begin?
Yes. Good morning, committee members. So this item is a discussion of the 7th year report from the Los Angeles County Office of Education, also known as LACO. The LACO site visit took place in February 2018. Cheryl and I were both on the visit. And after the visit, the COA granted LACO with full accreditation at the meeting and asked for a 7th year report to provide an update on those standards that were met with concerns. The standards that were met with concerns included for the common standards, Common Standard 1, and for program standards, there were just 2 programs where there were some program standards that were met with concerns. They were in career technical education and adult education programs, where 5 of the total of 29 program standards for those 2 programs were met with concerns. Leadership at LACO, including the folks that you see on Zoom today, have been in communication with commission staff since the COA meeting in March 2018 and have kept us apprised of their efforts to resolve the concerns that were raised in the report. So the following is a brief summary of those efforts, and then I'll let LACO leadership explain more if needed. So for Common Standard 1, the concerns raised were around the vacancy of a permanent employee in the position of unit head. Since then, this position has been filled, and I will let the LACO leadership staff tell you more about that. For the program standards in CT... Oh, do you want to say something now?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. All right. So, yeah, I'll come back to you for that one. So for the CTE and adult ed program standards, the concerns in the site visit report centered around 2 areas. The first area was in evidence showing how candidates were getting instruction and practice in their program to work with English learners and students with special needs. To address these concerns, LACO included evidence in the 7th year report to assignments specific to these critical areas that were already part of their program as of 2018, and also by detailing 2 to 3 new assignments that have been added to courses specifically to address these areas. The second area of concern for the CTE and adult ed programs was a lack of evidence showing how candidates were assessed according to the TPEs specifically, or to the CSTPs, depending on the stage of their program. To address these concerns, LACO has updated the instruments they use for candidate self-assessment and the instrument for observations by program supervisors and for site-based mentors. And the updates specifically align the competencies to the TPEs and the CSTPs, and they included those in the 7th year report. In addition, LACO provided us with a copy of a document that they created, which when Cheryl and I saw it, it took us a minute to figure it out, but it's a very impressive document. So what it does is it takes the teaching performance expectations, and underneath each subpart, it lists some examples of observable evidence for each area. So for example, if it's about, the TPE, I think it's 1.2 that talks about communication with families and parents, they actually list some places that you can do that, like, ways to do email, parent-teacher conference nights, through the Remind app, things that may seem really obvious, but of course to teachers in training or new teachers aren't always the most obvious thing. So it was really helpful to see how for each subpart of each part of the TPEs, they outline a nice list of observable evidence. So in conclusion, staff has reviewed each part of the 7-year report and provides it in full for your review. I'll now turn it over to staff at LACO to provide some further comments.
Thank you. Good morning once again to everyone. Appreciate this opportunity to talk about a little bit of our program and how we're changing to make those improvements happen. Just to touch initially on our unit lead that we did not have when the accreditation was taking place. So fortunately now we do have Dr. Kuna, who is our lead, and it has been a very critical component that wasn't there initially, but has really made a difference in what we're doing in the direction that we're headed and how that ties in with the different programs within our unit, but also within LACO. For instance, the strategic plan for the superintendent, we've been able to communicate with Dr. Kuna and other staff members to make sure that that ties in with the commission's goals and how it's going to look moving forward. Additional items that he's been part of that has assisted us in making sure that we are having programs that are effective and efficient, are talking to our leadership team that guides our programs in the direction that our stakeholders would like it to go into. So having changes in that arena has been very helpful to have him there, because he has the perspective of having different programs that he's been involved with that are similar to ours and yet different. But at the same time, we've been able to collaborate and really make a difference in what we want to put out there that's new, that is in accordance to changes that happen at the commissioner's office. And so again, his participation and collaboration in what we're doing is very integral in what we're continuing to work with. So I'm very happy to announce that he has been a great support and a resource for us, and more importantly, just a voice, not just within LACO, but outside of LACO. So again, that's a great addition to our program, and we look forward to continue that process with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leveron. Anybody else wish to comment, or Mr. Shula, do you want to move forward? Anything else to add?
We could go ahead and make a few comments, if that's okay, about the career tech ed and the adult ed concerns.
Sure, please.
Well, we appreciate the feedback that we got from the commission on our site visit, and we really feel that the changes we've made have strengthened our program tremendously. As you said, Jake, we have had a number of documents and assignments that we have added to our classes for our supervisors and our mentors to use based on the TPEs. And thank you for the compliment on the example of observable evidence. We have to credit our colleague, Amy O'Neill, with the Induction program. She shared that document with Linda and I. We made a few modifications to it to have it work for our CTE teachers. And we've gotten good feedback from our supervisors and mentors about using that document. So we feel that the changes have really benefited the program, and in terms of the TPEs and the CSTPs, and we look forward to incorporating all of these changes.
Great, thank you for sharing. Good to hear.
Yeah, I think that concludes the presentation. If there are any questions from the committee.
Okay. Committee members have any questions? Yes, Committee Member Erickson.
This is for the County Office Education team. Very impressive documents. They seem very thorough. I'm wondering about how you are going to collect this data and track it, how you're going to analyze the data, and how you're going to use it for continuous improvement moving forward in working with this group of educators.
Sure. Well, there's 3 documents in particular, and we have this information come in via our teachers. The first one is the CTE candidate self-assessment, and we use that twice. We use it at the beginning of the program, then again at the end of the program when they finish their coursework. So once a year, we do take that data and crunch it, and that provides a comparison between where they started and where they were when they ended our coursework. The other document is a supervisor program evaluation of the CTE teacher candidate. Those evaluations come into us, and again, once a year, we do crunch that data. We also have the mentor observation of the candidate, and this is all part of our data collection then. When the team came to visit, they saw in our data warehouse examples of then how that data looked for each year. Now the data is going to look different since we're using different instruments.
If I may add, you talked about how that's going to be used for improvement. So we do have our monthly unit meetings, and within those meetings, every part of our programs come in and bring their data, and we do break that down. We do have conversations of what's working, what's not working, what can be improved or completely changed. So during those meetings, we do have those breakouts where we try to make sure that as we are running programs, what we can do in the future to make sure that they're more effective.
And I should also add, we have meetings with instructors once a year. We share that data with them and discuss the implications. We also have an advisory committee that meets once a year. That data is also shared with them.
So the time frame's only once a year that you're sharing the data? Did I hear that correctly?
We do the data for the school year. So we start collecting it July 1st and then enter all the data throughout the year. So yes, we only share it one time a year with the advisory, one time a year with the teachers, and with our committee we share it because we have to wait for the year to be over in order to gather the data for that year. And then we also look at what was last year's data to the current one that we just completed too.
Now, in addition to that, of course, when the supervisory evaluations come in and the mentor observations come in to Linda, she sees those. And if there is a problem, it's identified for the individual at that time. We're talking about data collection in the aggregate that's done once a year.
But the forms come in data because most of the time they send them in at the end of the semester. Sometimes they send them in the beginning of the semester. So I'm always getting the mentor forms, the supervisor forms, and I enter it into our database so that we keep track on that candidate what forms have come in and what forms they still need to submit before they clear.
The candidate self-assessment instruments, of course, are also seen by the individual instructors. When they come in at the beginning of the program, it's in the first course that's taught. When they come in at the end, those come in via the fourth course, which is usually the last course that the teachers take. So, of course, the instructors are also reviewing it at that time.
Thank you. Any other committee member have any questions or comments? Okay. This is an information action item because LACOE received first accreditation or full accreditation last year. This is just a 7th year report, so no action is required at this time other than to accept the report from LACO. So do I have a motion to accept the report? So moved by Committee Member Riggs, seconded by Committee Member Borges. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Great. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lebron, Ms. Wagner, Ms. Matzek, Ms. Medler, and thank you, Mr. Schuler. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is item 10, are we available? Can we move to anything like, I saw item 21 was a discussion, but I don't know if, yeah, is that something we can move to now? Or update 21, 22, any of those?
Yeah, Miranda, would you mind giving the discussion on AQUIP? Are you okay for that? Because that's probably not a really long one. Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
Committee, we're going to move on to item 22, which is scheduled for the afternoon. Since it's not a time certain, it makes sense since we have time now to go to this item. Okay, well, I'll let you go home. So this is the update on the development of the new accrediting body, AAQP. Consultant Miranda Gutierrez will present the information. Ms. Gutierrez, will you please begin?
Good morning. So last Friday, Terry Clark and I went down to CSU Fullerton to attend a workshop on AQUIP. It was for program sponsors who were interested in hearing more about AQUIP and what their process is like. So there were 5 institutions there, or 5 currently approved program sponsors there looking for information about AQUIP. This year, AQUIP is conducting its first pilot of site visits with 9 institutions. This also includes 1 commission-approved program sponsor, though that site visit is independent of the commission's accreditation site visit. So just a little bit of information that we received on AQUIP's accreditation and how you kind of get there. First of all, it's available for all types of ed prep programs and different types of sponsors, including LEAs and other non-IHE entities. So when an institution wants to join their membership is what they call it because they're an association, they're placed in a cohort and that begins up to 3 years before they're assigned and scheduled a site visit. At that time, they're assigned an AQUIP liaison who works with them for the 3 years leading up to the site visit. And at that point, they actually schedule monthly calls for that cohort. The calls, you don't have to join them all the time, but they're there for support so you can kind of share best practices, ask questions, see what other people are struggling with or doing well at. 2 to 3 years prior to your site visit, you can elect to send a proposal to receive formative feedback on your plan for your quality assurance report that you'll be submitting in preparation of the site visit. That proposal is optional, but it's encouraged, and it's reviewed by 2 peer reviewers for feedback, and that allows the institution to respond to the feedback kind of how we've done in the past with our processes. So the institutions can respond to the feedback that they receive on their proposal of what they're planning to do in preparation of the site visit. And once they send their response back, it is then reviewed by AQUIP staff and it's filed with the institution's case record, and it becomes sort of an agreement of how the quality assurance report will address the AQUIP standards. And the intent of that is to provide any unwelcome surprises when the site visit comes so that there's kind of that open communication and institutions know kind of where they're going. So at least 6 months prior to the site visit, the institution officially submits their quality assurance report. And then again, leading up to the site visit, they're submitting any additional documentation and evidence. The site visit's conducted. And I think at the last meeting or the last time we discussed this, we talked about AQUIP's 4 standards. So this is what the quality assurance report is responding to. For AQUIP accreditation, that's decided by an accreditation decision or commission. And there are 3 levels of accreditation with AQUIP. There's full accreditation, which is for 7 years. There's accreditation with a note, so an institution can be granted accreditation for 2 or 5 years, depending on what happens at the visit, and then that can change at the next visit. Or an institution cannot be accredited if that commission finds that there was insufficient evidence of the program or the institution's capacity to provide quality preparation, and they make their decisions based on the quality assurance report and the review team's report. So our next steps are to kind of look at the AQUIP standards and the commission's common standards to look at a crosswalk, especially if we're going to have program sponsors who want to move forward with this. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is an information item only. No action is required. Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Do we have...
On that?
I'm sorry, do you have any questions? Yeah, I'm sorry. Chair Moore.
I'm just wondering if any of our IHE folks have had any outreach from AQUIP and what's the response in the field?
Not yet.
And their funding, is their funding, I see there's a membership fee, a yearly annual membership fee. Is there any other funding? I'm wondering.
Yeah, Member Alvarado.
So each campus handles accreditation fees differently, but typically that comes centrally from the campus, but sometimes it just comes straight out of the college's budget. AQUIP has approached the California State University deans of education about possibly, partnering, and so far there's a couple of campuses that are looking to be early adopters. I think many of the CSU deans of education are taking a wait-and-see approach, but there has been contact, and they did make a formal presentation to the deans of education for the CSU.
I'm just, and maybe no one can relate, I'm just curious about the genesis of AQUIP and what the need is based on.
Yeah. You good?
I think there was some concern about the direction that CAPE was going. And so the gentleman who's actually running AQUIP came from the CAPE world. So it was, I think, a reaction to the approach that CAPE is taking and the standards and some of the prescription and some of the standards. And so it's another alternative. They are going through the national approval process to be the formal, be an accepted formal nationally accredited body, but that takes a number of years. I think it takes 10 years maybe. And I don't know where they are in that process. Did they mention that, Miranda, about the federal
No, they
approval?
did briefly mention that, though, but just to go back to Anna's question or about where it kind of started. So it seemed like it came out of New York because I guess that they require national accreditation of their institutions. And so they were looking for something different. And so that's kind of where the idea of AQUIP came about.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Appreciate it. Sure. Thank you. We're just going to take a brief pause while we wait to see if we have everybody connected. So please don't leave the room. Just kind of relax for a bit.
Having so many people out in the field by Zoom, we need to make sure they're there. What's that? I know. It's hard to. They should be there. I hear somebody online. Could you identify who's on Zoom? Maybe I'm not hearing right. It's this mystery. Who's out there in the... Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, yeah.
Fence. I mean, it happens. Someone's got to do it.
There.
I'll let her know.
I think we are back. Do we have everybody present? All right. We're back to item 10. This is the report of the accreditation team to South San Francisco Unified School District. Consultant Miranda Gutierrez will introduce the item. And joining her at the table is team lead Kim Lilienthal and institutional representative Lottie Kawada.
How are you?
Program lead, and then on video, Marilyn Chan, program coordinator. What are we hearing?
Hi. Can you
No.
guys hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. We're hearing some extraneous noise.
Whoever is not from South San Francisco, could you mute your Zoom, please? Thank you.
All right. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Gutierrez, please begin.
Great. Good morning again. The South San Francisco site visit took place October 4th through the 6th and proceeded with all normal protocols. Before I turn it over to Kim, during the visit, the team did identify a preconditions compliance issue with teacher induction, precondition 3, which states each induction program must assure that each participating teacher receives an average of not less than 1 hour per week of individualized support/mentoring coordinated and/or provided by the mentor. So during the site visit, the team found inconsistencies that candidates and mentors were meeting the weekly 1 hour requirement. The team identified that the program was recording communication on a collaboration log, but there was no evidence that showed the duration of the meeting, so there was no way of tracking how long they were actually meeting for the week. Follow-up interviews with the program leadership confirmed that the collaboration logs did not require them to record the duration of the weekly support. So after the site visit, the institution immediately worked to meet this precondition by including a space on the collaboration log to record the duration of time that they're meeting. They emailed their mentors, and as of February 11th, the new log has been used to track the duration of support, and the program is now in compliance with the precondition. So with that background information, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kim for the site report and the recommendations.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as team lead for the South San Francisco Unified School District site visit and represent the Committee on Accreditation. I also appreciate the hard work of the visit team, including Miranda, our consultant. So quick thank you there. Before presenting the findings and recommendation for South San Francisco Unified School District, I'd like to share a little bit of district and program information and overview because of its connection to our recommendation. So South San Francisco Unified School District Induction Program supports 9 elementary schools, 3 high schools, 3 middle schools, and 1 alternative education high school, and includes 29 completers from 17-18. Enrollment at the time of the visit was 49 candidates. We also feel it's important to note and highlight, as is highlighted in the final report, that this is the first accreditation site visit for South San Francisco Unified School District after receiving program approval in February of 2015. It's a fairly new program. The district had previously partnered with their County Office of Education Consortium. A few highlights from our visit and report include a really strong commitment from district leadership to provide a locally designed program to their induction candidates, really with an emphasis on serving the diverse students of their district, as well as strategic efforts to retain the induction candidates that they had enrolled in their program. Let's see, stakeholder interviews also confirmed that their commitment to providing an individualized program was in place as well, and that support from the program leaders themselves was held in high regard. They reported favorably in the support they were receiving from the two program leaders there in the district. So after thorough review of the evidence provided by the program and the site visit interviews, the team made a unanimous decision of accreditation with stipulations. And this was agreed upon because the team felt that South San Francisco Unified School District is generally effective in preparing the candidates, and the area of concerns really had minimal impact on the quality of the program that the candidates were experiencing. In fact, much of what the visit team discussed was the variability in terms of implementation of the program, the strong program components or the program design. So of the 5 common standards 1 and 3 were met with concerns, and of the 6 program standards, program standard 2, 3, 4, and 6 were met with concerns. And as I kind of go through those in generality, because you have the detail there in the report, I'll share kind of some of the overlap that exists within that list. So for Common Standard 1, the component of that was the regular and consistent collaboration with college and university members associated and affiliated with the institution. And for Common Standard 3, it was the inconsistency in mentor selection, the mentor selection process and evaluation. And we'll revisit those components in Program Standard 4 and 6. As well, for program standards, team noted variability in candidate experiences in these areas. The ILP's consultation with the site administrator for Program Standard 2. And Program Standard 3, very similar in the collaborative development of the ILP with employer input that included the candidate's job assignment. For Program Standard 4, it was variability in the mentor selection process, again, very closely related to Common Standard 3. And for Program Standard 6, assessment of the quality of services provided by the mentors. So data was being collected, but in terms of how that data was user communicated directly back to mentors in order to determine the quality of that support. There were inconsistencies there. So any questions that I can answer on behalf of the team, I'd be happy to.
Sure. Actually, thank you, Ms. Lilienthal. I think at this point what we'd like to do is invite the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit itself. And we remind you this is not the time to dispute the report, but rather provide any thoughts that you had about the visit.
Good morning. My name is Lottie Quada. I am the Induction Program Coordinator. I want to thank Kim and Miranda for a wonderful visit. Being our first visit and being a new program, it felt like there are some things that we didn't know if we were doing correctly, and it felt good that we were somewhat on the right track. And it was a fairly easy 3 days. I think it was more difficult in our heads than it really was, the visit really was. So it was very nice to know what to expect in 7 years. But I want to thank, it was very professional, and they made it very easy. The team made it very easy, and the process itself was the information our leadership team received was very useful, and it validated a lot of our work. So, thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it went well. Thank you, Ms. Kawada. This is a top opportunity for the committee to have any questions, discussions. Committee Member Alvarado.
Thank you. In the report, it mentions under overall recommendations that the district is to take immediate action to address precondition 3. Has that been addressed?
Yeah, so as of February 11th, they were already in compliance. The visit concluded on February 6th, so within a week or so, they were on track with that.
Member Briggs.
This is maybe a question more for the team. As I read through, I was trying to figure out how was it that you decided whether it was met with concerns or not met, and it seemed like I was maybe noticing a pattern where there were documents, and that when you had interviews, you would make statements in the report like the team did not find evidence that results from candidate mid-year surveys to indicate mentor effectiveness are used for mentor evaluation. And so when something happened like that for the team, I wondered how you approached that. It's in a document, but yet you're making a very clear statement that you're not finding evidence through the interviews to suggest that those documents are being used. Mm-hmm. And the decision you came up with each and every time, it seems, was met with concerns. Mm-hmm. So is that telling your team that having a document in place is enough to be met if it's not being implemented? I guess that's my question. And I'm not sure that the trend permeates all of your decisions, but it seemed like I was noticing that as I would read.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the team very much felt as though based on the evidence that was provided, that the program structures and the program design that was in place was meeting those standards in terms of how it was used or how it was being implemented, or the consistency with which the implementation was happening was where the concern was in many cases. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I might follow up.
Sure.
I think the basic question that came to my mind was inconsistency in implementation, but then if I see a statement that says this team did not find evidence that results were used for mentor evaluation, there's no inconsistency in that statement.
I see what you're saying.
So, okay, so you get...
Right. So I'd need to go back and take a look at the full standard. So it's possible that in that particular example, then because it was a particular component, then the met with concern was because the other areas of that standard were strong enough to feel that from a holistic perspective, that there was that was an appropriate recommendation. Sure.
Co-Chair Moore.
So to piggyback on that, that word inconsistent came up quite a bit. So this is for the employees institution. Thank you. So, and I can understand you can go in as a team and you can go, okay, we're seeing this. But we didn't see it there, but we're seeing it the majority of the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering where that genesis of the inconsistency is, and what you're thinking as far as moving forward to tighten this up so the inconsistencies aren't occurring as frequently.
Was that my question? Oh, okay. Oh, yes, it's on. Actually, all the findings we agreed with. So the one with the evaluation, we know where the holes were there too. So we've actually we are in the planning stages as of now because it was just a month ago. So we've already have steps in place to address several of those areas. And as we move into the end of the school year, we're working with, collaborating with our, let's just say our human resources and our principals and our superintendent to address several of those areas. So those are the holes that we did see, and we do agree with that. And it's where this visit helped us interpret what those standards really meant. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Member Tchaikovsky.
Again, related to the previous two comments, I think, the process of improvement that results from responding to the feedback is one of the positive outcomes of this whole process. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the site team's location of this report in historical context, that you're a relatively new program. I work in a program that's relatively new. We were reactivated the same year yours was. And so I know that as we learn to make effective practices uniformly applied, it takes a little time to figure out the ways to document that consistent application of practice. So I think it's in the spirit of implementing these standards in a locally valid context, I think it's helpful to know where you're at in this process, and to anticipate where it is you will go and to be able to follow the evidence of your progress in that regard. It's illustrative for programs throughout the state.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion to accept the team report? So moved by Committee Member Riggs. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Amos. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Lilienthal, Ms. Kawada, Ms. Chan, and Ms. Gutierrez. Thank you all for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have a 10:30. Yeah. We're moving on to item 11. Yep. Yeah, we can do a short break perhaps after this. But we'll. Oh, okay. All right, so item 11 is the report of the accreditation team on the Ontario Montclair School District. Consultant Gabe Roby will introduce the item. Joining her via technology is team lead Carmen Mock. Can you hear us? Yay.
Yes.
And institutional representatives Jennifer Clark, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and also Learning and Teaching Division, that's a long one, and also Lindsay Whipple, the teacher on assignment. So anyone need to recuse himself? We have one, Member Riggs. There's your early break. Ms. Roby, will you please begin?
Thank you. The accreditation site visit for the Ontario Montclair School District took place January the 15th through the 17th in the beginning of our rainy period. If you remember, in Southern California, it rained almost the whole time we were there. The site visit took place on two different locations. We went to the district office one day, and then we went out to their learning center one of the other days that we were there. That was a 3-member team from representatives from throughout the state, and all normal processes were accorded. So I would like to turn the report time over to Carmen Mack, who is joining us on technology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carmen Mack, and I was the site lead for the review of the Ontario Montclair School District Induction Program. So our site visit team is happy to recommend that the status of accreditation be granted to the Ontario Montclair School District Induction Program. Our site visit team had a wonderful and smooth visit in January and discovered that OMSD and its induction program exemplifies and lives the intent of the 2016 induction standards. The OMSD induction program develops excellent mentors, individualizes candidate learning through individual learning plan, consistently collects and responds to feedback to improve the program, collaborates within and beyond the district on the topic of teacher growth, thereby creating a network of supports for candidates, mentors, site leaders, so that no one feels alone in supporting the new teacher. A little bit of background. OMSD serves most of the City of Ontario, Montclair, portions of Upland, and unincorporated areas of the San Bernardino County. They have a total of 34 schools serving more than 22,300 pre-kindergarten through 8th grade students. They are the 3rd largest elementary district in the state. The structure of the OMSD program is organized as such. The induction is housed in the Teaching and Learning Division of this district. The Director of Curriculum Instruction serves as the program director with day-to-day oversight and is supported by a full-time release teacher in assignment. Program oversight is provided by the Assistant Superintendent from the Teaching and Learning Division, serving as the program's liaison to the Superintendent's Office and the Cabinet. And this is what we found. Leadership. The Superintendent emphasized that OMSD has an embedded culture of collaboration and growth, which was evidenced in the interactions, interviews, and work of all stakeholder groups. Communication amongst these groups, both frequent and important, reinforces this culture, the district culture of caring. Program leadership models the inquiry process by constantly gathering survey data, feedback data, mentor contact logs to make both programmatic changes and give individualized support to mentors and candidates. In terms of their individual learning processes, which are very connected to their cycles of inquiry, the program modeled these, the use of reflective data analysis, and then the program leadership shows mentors and candidates what it looks like to ask high quality questions and search for high quality measurable answers. Candidates, mentors, and site leaders appreciated the highly individualized inquiry cycle process that features a triad meeting amongst candidate, mentor, and the site administrator to determine reachable goals, as well as multitude of professional development offerings to the district through the teaching channel, IRIS, as well as unique demonstration mentors in the Spotlight classroom. So as a result, candidates felt that they were constantly growing and reflecting, which they recognized as foundational qualities of an effective teacher. Site leaders also commented on how the induction program was not a cookie cutter program, but one where collaboration leads to excitement and ownership. And in terms of their mentorship program, mentorship is at the heart of their program. Mentors are carefully vetted through a thorough application and interview process. Mentors are trained through monthly coaching collaborative meetings, which mentors have described as being an essential part of their success as mentors because it addresses their just-in-time concerns and builds their capacity as mentors. At some point, mentors were even helping each other out, so that's how strong their mentorship program was. District and site administrators commented that the quality mentor matches, as well as the proactive and relational qualities of the mentors, are key to the success of the program. So overall, OMSD is a stellar induction program, providing all layers and levels of quality supports to develop quality new teachers.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mack. We now invite the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you this is not the time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any thoughts you may have about the visit. Good call.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm Jennifer Clark, and this is my colleague, Lindsay. She's my lead teacher. She's Wickersham now, recently married. We're happy to be here today, and I just wanted to comment on how smooth the process went. We were very pleased with our results. The team was very, very communicative. We collaborated together. They worked with us. We felt very supported through the process, and we worked very, very hard to prepare for the day, but we definitely felt very satisfied and supported through the process. So we want to thank everyone for their support.
Thank you. Ms. Mrs. Wickersham now? Yes. Congratulations. Anything you'd like to add?
Again, piggybacking on what Jennifer said, the process was very smooth, but I think even more so, it was a group of educators where we felt comfortable, and so the stress levels came way down. And Carmen was a wonderful lead and really made every group that they interviewed feel very comfortable. So we appreciate that.
Glad to hear. Thanks for the report. Committee members, opportunity for us to ask any questions. Committee member Morrison.
Mine's not a question, actually. It's just to say what a pleasure it was to read the report and to listen to the report as well. And so it sounds like you have a great program there, and I'm going to tell people about it. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
Member Alvarado.
So I second that sentiment, and I'm also really pleased for the teachers who are participating in your program, and ultimately the students who are being taught by your teachers. So thank you for the good work you do.
Thank you very much.
Member Erickson.
I would second those thoughts and move that we accept the recommendations of the team.
Okay, there is a motion. Before the member Tchaikovsky, do you have a comment you'd like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you as well on the collaborative clearly articulated nature of your program. You know, that teachers are at the heart of it, which is where they're supposed to be per induction. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion on the table from Member Erickson to accept the team report. Is there a second? Second by Member Borges. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Oh, I'm sorry. Committee member, oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
because they're here at
Hold
the
it.
table,
Yes.
I would ask, can she spend a minute or two telling you what a spotlight classroom is?
Sure.
Something we had
absolutely.
never run into before, and it was such an impressive piece to add to an induction program. I wanted to give her a chance to explain it.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, I'm happy to talk about our program in the district. A few years back, we started a program called the Spotlight Teaching Program. And the Spotlight teachers are just teachers in their classroom who have agreed to open up their doors to allow visitors to come in and watch for the sake of inquiry and discussion around teaching and learning. And so we initially started our Spotlight program just for the entire district, but it's kind of morphed into a really big part of our induction program. So as part of our induction journey, our teachers visit the Spotlight classrooms with their mentors, and they go through a kind of a mini coaching cycle. They start with an inquiry question. What do they want to learn about? And then they go to the classroom, they visit, and they just soak it up, and then they're able to debrief with that Spotlight teacher, and then later in the day, the mentor and the teacher engage in collaboration around just what they saw together and how this is going to impact their teaching moving forward. That's just one of the small pieces that is part of our induction program that I think makes us a little bit unique. Our Spotlight teachers do participate in our coaching collaborative, which is our monthly meeting. We have Spotlight teachers, our mentors, and our site level coaches that are all working together to collaborate around this idea of coaching. So it's in a broader sense, we're all learning together to just do a good job for our teachers and our students.
Wow, that sounds like a
to add
wonderful and
anything?
fruitful experience. Yeah, anything you'd like to add to that? Okay. No, it really sounds like a wonderful experience. I wish we could all get out there and observe that. There we go. Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, we want to thank those in attendance who are coming. Thank you, Ms. Roby. Thank you, Ms. Mack. Thank you, Ms. Clark. And thank you, Ms. Wickersham. We recognize the amount of work it takes to prep for a visit, to prepare the documents, and we also want to thank Gabe. We know how much work it is to coordinate everything, and also team lead. We know exactly how much time it takes and involves. So thank you all for your expertise. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Cheryl, we're half hour ahead of schedule. Anything from the afternoon you want to move forward? Well, we did 22. 23 maybe? Okay. Well, we can do 24? So maybe we can do 24, then we'll take a brief break before the 11 o'clock. Can we do that? Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to item 24. Yes. So item 24, that's a discussion about, item 24, discussion about program exemplars, and Consultant Miranda Gutierrez will present the item. Ms. Gutierrez, please begin.
Caught out of order, so I gotta find my notes again. All right, well, with that, I'll begin.
Please do.
So this is just an update on the work that has taken place on identifying program exemplars of process and that whole piloting of the process. So staff has been working on the process, and it includes working on creating a letter or invitation for invited institutions to apply, or eligible institutions to apply. Outlining the application requirements, what we're going to request and ask of institutions to submit with their application, identifying the selection committee members in collaboration with the administrators here, I'm working on that letter and invitation to those committee members, outlining kind of what their responsibilities will be in this first year and how we'll move through the process. And then also we've been working on establishing the criteria for being how we are identified with program exemplar status. So that's kind of the work that's taken place now. We're getting close to pushing out all of those invitations to eligible institutions and inviting the selection committee members. That way we can really get that process going, because I think during the last item I heard some of you say when it concluded kind of looking at some programs like that as exemplars. So we know those programs are out there and we really want to highlight them and have them as a resource for other institutions throughout the state so they can start implementing some of those best practices. So like I said, our next steps are just finalizing those documents and getting them sent out so we can get this rolling. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, Member Riggs.
It's not a question, but I've never liked the term exemplar, and I like the word spotlight from the last program as another way to think about learning from a spotlight, because my understanding of what we were talking about with exemplars was really kind of more in line with a spotlight of an aspect of their program rather than an entire program. So I don't know if there's opportunity with the commission being so strong about exemplars to change the.
Well, you bring up a really good point, because I think as we've been working on the documents to send out, we're really being clear that it's a practice within the program, and so it's like a spotlight item, if you will. So.
Yeah. Member Tchaikovsky.
But at the same time, what I also heard from that last team is that they put a spotlight on a classroom without the expectation that everything that happens in there be off the chart in terms of any evaluation criteria. And that resonates with me in our program too, is that all classrooms offer us opportunities to learn and to consider elements of powerful instruction and student learning. So, and there should never be some bizarre expectation that every aspect of a program or a classroom be 11 on the 10-point scale. And I think that that's really important, to acknowledge the complexity that's involved in this work and this craft. So spotlight has lots of connotations about performance. It also has connotations about being on a stage. I don't know. I have some second thoughts about that noun.
Thank you, Member Alvarado.
So I know that in our previous discussion, with the term that came up was coaching and mentoring, right? More of a collaborative, opening yourself up for engaging in a reciprocal sort of dialogue to help others and maybe in the process help themselves as well. But that's the gist of, I think, what we came up with. Not so much, again, getting away from the gold stars,
right?
Kind of thing, but saying, hey, there's something really special going on here, and there's opportunity, and that particular program being open to, again, coaching and mentoring others in that particular approach. So I don't know what term, spotlight or something else, but the idea that it embody that.
Okay, thank you, Member Riggs.
Just real quick as follow-up, it makes me think, too, that for some institutions it'll be hard to reach out potentially to go and learn. If you are going to an exemplar, what does that mean our institution is? You know what I mean? I really do feel like the term, whatever it ends up being, needs to be something that's inviting. And the coaching mentoring term was so much more inviting than exemplar.
Okay. Member Erickson.
What about something like illuminating practices?
I just want to assure you that approach of coaching and mentoring is exactly what's being reflected in the documents that we're putting out. So you don't have them here because we're still kind of finalizing them. And just kudos to Miranda. She's been helping us through this process on top of all her other work, and because it's really hard because staff right now is really thin. We are all over the place. So we're trying to get this work done because we know it's a priority for the commission. But it's hard to do this because we're thinking through making sure it's a fair process, and that it's, because we know the minute we highlight somebody, another institution's going to wonder why they weren't high. So we want to make sure it reflects everything that you have said around the table in terms of the purpose is about coaching and mentoring and helping other institutions think about their own practices and kind of sharing that kind of thing. So it's more complicated than it would have been easier to to do it in a more simplified manner, but that's so negative, I guess I'd say. There's too many negatives to it. We want it to be something that's really helpful to the field, not punitive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Member Tchaikovsky, then Borges.
Just to clarify, intent of this priority is to provide a means by which like colleagues can connect with others for the purpose of continual improvement, right?
Right.
That's what it is. It's not necessarily to inform legislative direction, allocate resources, advocate for any particular philosophy or anything like that, right? Okay.
Yeah, part of learning for mutual benefit. Yeah, absolutely.
and I do like illuminating practices. I think that might.
Member Borges.
What I was going to say is I'm lucky because I'm a mentor, and every year I get to take new candidates out and observe classrooms. And this doesn't really have anything to do with accreditation, but it's a shame that we don't do this more for teachers who have, experienced teachers.
Right.
I learn so much every time I go out with candidates, but the possibility is not provided for other teachers if you're not a mentor. Yeah. Just, yeah.
Member Erickson.
This is listed as an action item. What further clarification does staff need from us?
No actions required.
It says it could be, yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Member Tchaikovsky.
So while I did just say, the goal here is this horizontal, trying to understand that whole, the reason or the purpose behind why this is important. I also think that obviously any value judgment is accompanied by beliefs and philosophy about how things should be done, right? So as soon as you identify anything as having quality, obviously is illustrated by the standards, you're communicating expectations and values and beliefs. So I would say that in order to maximize the potential value of this initiative, I do think some type of justification, annotation, commentary, alignment to standards, some qualitative description of the illuminating practice or light in the darkness, right? Whatever we'd like to call that, would make these artifacts potentially more useful. It's like, why is it illuminating? Why is this promising? Because I would assert that there are a number of time-honored expectations of effective instruction that do not produce evidence of student learning. And I don't know that everybody would interpret these artifacts and examples of effective instruction the same way. So this is a chance to really say, we think this is what it looks like. Now connect the exemplar with, or the artifact with the standard, and make some explicit connections between the two. Very, educationally powerful document, not least for site administrators.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions? Okay, this is information, action, but no action really is required at this point. So we know that the staff will bring us updates at future COA meetings. Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Appreciate it. Do we want to take about 5? Do we have the 11 o'clock? Okay, so we take 5? Yeah, let's take 5. We'll come back in. Do we have all representatives of the Napa County Office of Education? Okay. All right, committee members, we're going to reconvene here. It's item 12 is what we're moving on to. Item 12 is a report of the accreditation team to Napa County Office of Education. Consultant Roxanne Perdue will introduce the item. And joining her on video is team lead James Webb. James, you there? There you are. And at the table are institutional representatives Lucy Edwards, Director of Continuous Improvement, and Jill Barnes, Induction Program Manager. Does anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Ms. Perdue, will you please begin?
Thank you. The Napa County Office of Education site visit took place January 14th through 16th. The visit took place with no extraordinary circumstances. We had a 3-member team, and with that, I'll turn it over to our team lead, James Webb.
Thank you, Roxanne. Good morning, friends and colleagues on the Committee on Accreditation. Roxanne and I have worked for several months with the Napa County Office of Education, so I want to first thank Roxanne for her support and guidance as a wonderful state consultant. She has been both professional with the institution and with the team when we started our visit in January. Jill Barnes and Rachel Blatt must also be commended for their work and dedication to seeing a smooth site visit. Anytime that we requested information or needed additional data, both of them were quick to provide these items. Jill was a consummate professional and her leadership is clear with regard to her commitment to the accreditation process and seeing it to provide the information that the system is designed to collect. I want the COA to know and to recognize how important Jill and Rachel were to the process to see a smooth visit for me and for all of the team members. So now what I would like to do is to move to the report, and I'm going to go in the same order as it's been presented for the COA. The induction program at the Napa County Office of Education has implemented the revised standards expectation of a high-quality individual learning plan to prompt professional growth and deep inquiry into the CSTPs. Candidates work with mentors on a goal that is informed by a triad meeting with the candidate's site administrator at the beginning of the school year. From there, the mentors and candidates work together through classroom observations, deep conversations, and professional learning to positively impact students and their own learning. Candidates and completers commented on how authentic the work is, and mentors commented on the positive changes that have come about from the revised standards and the work that Jill has done in moving the mentoring forward for meaningful moments to assist towards a progression of mastery with the CSTPs. Despite these positive directions, however, the team was unable to find evidence that the program has implemented a system that shows how the program evaluates and recognizes mentors in a systemic manner. The mentors do participate in frequent book discussions and networking, but to the fidelity of the program standard, leadership needs to implement systems that identify mentor strengths and areas of growth to model the cyclic increase system that induction requires. For that, program standards 4 and 6 were met with concerns as these standards address the previously mentioned issues. All other program standards were fully met. With the common standards, it's evident that the program leadership facilitates a system of induction that meets the needs of its candidates. The team found consistent evidence that the program at Napa COE does an effective service to its schools from interviews with site administrators and local IHE partners. In addition, the team found that the program has an important impact on the work of teachers as we interviewed completers and school administrators. The Advisory Board Task Force meets regularly and consistently examines data and information as it relates to the induction program. This analysis of review helps to inform next steps for the program leadership to make changes to support the continued growth of candidates as they work with the CSTPs and complete the necessary steps for the recommendation of the clear credential. These strong reviews of data end with the program, however. The team was unable to locate evidence or secure interviews that confirm the involvement with unit leadership towards the steps for continuous improvement as outlined in Common Standard 4. In addition, the lack of a systemic manner that supports mentors in their development determined a finding with Common Standard 3 that also highlighted concerns. While all of the information that the team examined, the findings for Common Standards 1, 2, and 5 were met. Common Standards 3 and 4 were found met with concerns. The overall recommendation of the team to the COA is accreditation with stipulations, and the two stipulations are outlined in the report: that the institution provides evidence that it has established a systematic manner in which mentors are evaluated and recognized, and that the institution demonstrates the unit leadership provides institutional support required to address the needs of the teacher induction program, considering the interest of the program within the institution, and that the education unit regularly and systematically analyzes data to promote continuous improvement. The team's recommendation is that the institution submit this written documentation within 1 year of the COA's decision. The team's recommendation was informed by the fact that the program works to support candidates towards earning their clear credentials, and that the program works effectively to meet the majority of program standards. These stipulations will only work to strengthen the induction program for Napa County Office of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. We'd now like to call on the institution to say a few words about the visit. This is not the time to dispute the team findings, but rather provide or offer any thoughts that you have about the visit.
Make sure that's on. Good morning, everybody. We first wanted to say, start with thank yous. We wanted to extend our appreciation and a big thank you to the CTC consultant, Roxanne. She was supportive every step of the way, from the preparation phase, throughout the site visit, and then even afterwards. And so she was so readily available to answer any and all of our questions. We also wanted to extend our appreciation to James and then the site visit team. They were so well organized, and they really made our interviewees feel really welcome and at ease during the focus group and the interview process. So we really appreciated that. And we see the accreditation cycle and the site visit as an opportunity to dig in deep for more program analysis, to find out what our strengths are and then what our areas for growth are. And we really appreciate the feedback because we see that as an opportunity to really strengthen our program as we move forward. We've already taken strides to put some new ideas into place based on the recommendations. So for the mentor formative feedback, we are in a planning phase right now to take a look at adding a more definitive cycle, providing feedback during the mentor times when they meet with our program lead. So right now we have them do we have them set a growth goal, and then we'll have them come back and reflect on that growth goal at various times during the year. And at those moments, the more formal formative feedback, we'll be offering them based on what it is that they are working on towards their growth goal. And so our program lead will take those opportunities at several times during the year to provide more formative feedback on their mentoring practice, how they're establishing those trusting relationships with teachers, how they're working on their mentoring skills. So that's already in planning development. And in terms of the other recommendation around Common Standard 4, continuous improvement, we put some practices and some structures into place for Jill and me to meet on a regular basis and then also document the data and information that we are exploring and reviewing together, conversations that we have because of that data information, and then what actions or ideas that we might ponder in the future based on that data and information. I also meet with our deputy superintendent and associate superintendent on a monthly basis, and I will be bringing that information, that data that we talked about from the program, whether it's formal data or informal data or information, to the deputy superintendent and the associate superintendent, and if the superintendent is available, include her as well on a monthly basis to inform them about how the program is doing, what strengths there are in the program, what decisions need to be made, and then collect their input and their ideas and suggestions on how to grow the program.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Edwards. Ms. Barnes, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just share again the gratitude that I have for being part of the process, and we were very fortunate, I believe, that our accreditation cycle coincided with the revision of standards and jumping into that with both feet, having a lot of coordinated communication with other directors and coordinators in our local area. So it's been a learning process that I am excited to continue moving forward through, but I really appreciate the process itself.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. This is an opportunity for the committee to ask any questions or engage in discussion. Last call. Any opportunity for questions or comments? Straightforward. Okay. This is an action item. So at this point, we can call for a motion. Is there a motion to accept the team report? So moved by Committee Member Briggs. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Krisha. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you so much for your work. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Mack, Ms. Clark. I'm sorry. Wrong one. Thank you. Thank you all. How's that? Where's my notes? So you give me the notes and I blow. There it is. Thank you, Ms. Edwards, Ms. Barnes, Ms. Purdue, and Mr. Webb. James, good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you all as well.
All right, great. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Let me just make sure. Where's Jake? Oh, Jake. So still car trouble? Okay. Okay, then we'll skip the next one and go to Summit next.
All right, we're going to move forward to item 14. Yep, come up to the table, please. We'll invite the representatives from the table or from the institution to come to the table. So item 14 is the update on the Summit Preparatory Charter High School Intern Program. Administrator Cheryl Hickey will introduce the item. Joining her at the table are Consultant William Hattrick, Institutional Representatives Pamela Lamke, Director of Summit Teacher Learning Residency, and Adam Carter, the Chief Academic Officer. Does anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Ms. Hickey, please begin.
Sure. Item 14 includes a recommendation to reconsider one part of your stipulations that you approved at the last meeting so that the COA action is in full alignment with your accreditation handbook. I want to first turn it over to Summit institutional representative to talk about what they've been doing or where they are at the moment with the program. And then I do know that I believe that they plan to appeal. You guys can talk about that more, which may make this conversation a little shorter than you anticipated because we would want to know what the commission action is sort of at that point in time. And then we'll talk about the recommendation that's in the agenda item.
Yes, please begin.
Great. Good morning. I'm Pam Lamke, Senior Director of Summit Learning Teacher Residency. I'm also a former principal at Summit Public Schools and have served with the organization for the past 7 years. I also want to introduce Adam Carter. Since 2012, Adam has served as Chief Academic Officer at Summit Public Schools. He was a founding English teacher at Summit's first school. Adam has been with this organization as it has navigated growth and introduced new and innovative approaches to public education that have positively impacted schools and student outcomes. Both Adam and I are here to answer any questions that you have today. As you'll hear in a moment, the staff of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing is urging this committee to reverse the decision it made at the last meeting and to allow our program to recommend our excellent teacher candidates for preliminary credentials in alignment with the accreditation handbook policies. On behalf of Summit, I'm here to urge you to follow the CTC's council and state law and grant our participants the rest of the year to complete the program and earn their credentials. We are also asking you to remove the stipulations attached to our institutional accreditation. We make these two requests with the knowledge and confidence that we have worked in good faith with the CTC staff every step of the way since seeking approval for and launching our program. We have done everything that staff has asked us to do. We have been highly communicative and transparent. Our program has received high marks from CTC staff and the site visit team, and no one has disputed the quality of our program. We have also worked toward addressing all demands of this committee while preparing an appeal to the Commission. Our program is providing a valuable contribution to California public education by preparing teachers to be successful in student-centered schools and classrooms. We stand ready to work with you to ensure the continued success of our program. We ask that you vote today to do two things. One, to remove stipulations from our institutional accreditation since we have taken the actions required of us by this committee. Two, to accept the proposal that CTC staff are about to share so that a handbook policy is upheld and our wonderful and diverse teacher candidates are assured a safe entry into our profession. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lamke.
Did you want to say? All right, I want to make sure that you have that opportunity. So the commission staff's recommendation, as you'll see, on page 1 of the agenda item is the list of stipulations that you placed on Summit at the last meeting. And our recommendation at this time is on page 2, and it's not necessarily, we did not address removal of all stipulations. It's very specific to stipulation 4, removal of stipulation 4, and adjustment of stipulation 5 so that it says that the institution not be permitted to admit new candidates for the current intern program or recommend for the credential after June 30th of 2019. The accreditation handbook does talk about if you decide to close a program, that it closes at the end of the term. And that is what we are proposing at this point in time, that we follow that accreditation handbook language, as well as add in the recommendation that those who would be recommended, those candidates, would come to the commission staff on an individual basis. We would work with Summit to make sure that they address the things that were the biggest concerns at the last meeting, which were meeting subject matter, having completed the 600 hours of clinical practice, and ensuring that their mentor or master teacher was fully credentialed with a clear credential. And if not, what other supports were provided to that candidate to ensure that they were being properly mentored, mastered, the master teacher part of it. So that is our recommendation at this point in time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hickey. Any comments or questions for discussion for the COA members? Member Morrison.
Can I ask the institution a question?
Certainly.
Okay. This item is the Charter High School intern program, and yet you or nobody else from your institution refers to it as an intern program. You consistently use the term residency. Are you using that word residency in a unique way that only you use, or are you not running an intern program?
The term residency is one we applied to the CTC, to this committee for accreditation over 2 years ago and have used it consistently since. So we use it in line with the way that we've designed the program and the original intent of the word. We have understood that word has come to mean different things and more codified sort of definition in the past year or so. But we continue to use it as a historical mark of the program, as the name of the program, and are very open to renaming the program if that becomes a significant issue for this committee or others.
Member Alvarado.
So just to understand, is the program you're running an intern program? And if so, are the candidates then filling instructor of record slots where there's no other teacher in that classroom but that candidate, and they're getting paid their full salary as an instructor of record?
I think this was part of the discussion last time. Our candidates receive their intern credential once they meet all of those requirements. They are serving as a teacher of record, but it is not a full-time position.
So just as a follow-up, last time you had mentioned that the candidates were actually receiving a stipend, not that they were the teacher of record per se, but a stipend. Can you clarify that?
That's correct. That's how the program is structured currently, which goes back to how the program was originally designed and approved by this committee. We are looking into making those adjustments should the program be able to continue, and that's how the program would be set up going forward.
Yes, please.
So one more follow-up question. So as an entity that offers or is sponsoring an intern program, there would have to be a documented need. Does that mean that every one of those candidates that's in that program is going to have permanent employment in your district once they complete?
It means they're acting as teachers when they are interns. And then we have a short history in this program. We hire from this pool. We have a huge need, not just for great teachers, but for teachers who are representative of the communities we serve. This program fills both of those needs and becomes the primary pipeline through which a growing network of schools at Summit is able to fill open positions for high quality teaching.
Member Tchaikovsky.
So is it true that the people currently working as interns in this program are occupying spaces that you cannot otherwise fill with credentialed teachers?
I think it's a difficult question to answer for this reason. It's, in all cases, I believe that any school can find a teacher if you need to find a teacher. Our challenge is finding really high quality teachers, and this program fills that need. We're able to fill classrooms with teachers who are capable of teaching our students, our highly diverse student population, and have been trained to do so in a model in which they do have additional support in their intern placement.
So there would be no highly qualified teacher in the absence of these people who are not full-time teachers. Is that correct?
It is hard to answer that question because you're asking us if worse came to worse, I'm sure we would find a way to fill an open position with a teacher, just like any school in the state would be able to. This program...
Well, I'm not sure that any school in the state can, which is my understanding of why intern programs exist, which is why I'm asking that question. Because preliminary credentialing, as I understand it, is intended to be our state's measure of readiness to lead instruction. In the absence of people with that certification, intern is like a plan B sort of option. That's what I'm interested in better understanding is this program employing internship as intended by the state of California? And it sounds like you're doing things very differently to me.
If you don't mind, I could say something. I want to make sure it's hitting the question being asked. Do you mind reframing the questions?
Yeah, I'm interested in this term intern. I think it's the same question that was asked over here. To me, an intern program is pretty clearly outlined. I get the whole residency overlap thing. I mean, we just submitted a response, in response to this RFP, and we have interns that are participating similarly to residents. But it's very clear to me, in light of CTC's commitment to providing highly qualified teachers in every classroom, that first and foremost, preliminarily credentialed teachers should be afforded teaching positions where they're vested with the authority to implement the California standards for the teaching profession. So a step back from that would be interns. So I guess my question is just the people participating in your program, are they in fact necessary for providing quality instruction to the students in your district, and are they employed and vested with the authority that comes with that position?
To the first question, yes, they're essential. To the second question, are they vested with the authority? Yes, they're a part of the faculty of our schools in their intern year. And we are taking action, as Pam mentioned, to, if the program is able to continue into next year, create a full employment pipeline. This was a question we had from the beginning about the employment process. And so we worked in good faith with CTC staff to make sure that we were doing what we understood to be right under the intern certification designation within Ed Code. We got the answer to that from CTC Legal Tuesday before the COA meeting on Thursday in January. And so when we got that final word that no, you actually need to have an employment record, not a stipending, which is, in terms of the candidate experience, it's the same. They're getting about the same amount of compensation they would were they to be a part-time employee at our schools. But in terms of the so from their perspective, that is important. From our perspective as an organization, we can restructure the employment if the program's allowed to go forward. We just can't do it midstream this year.
But they don't give grades or serve as the student's primary representative for the courses to which they're assigned. Is that my understanding? I'm trying to understand their relative role.
They do for the portion of time in which they serve as the teacher of record. It's just not a full-time role.
Member Riggs.
I think it's unfortunate that we have a misunderstanding of intern. An intern credential is meant for a teacher who is hired without having completed their full teacher preparation program and is hired to be the teacher of record throughout the entire time they're in your intern program under an intern credential. It's a license. And I understand that your program got initial approval. It's really important, I think, to clarify that the role of this body, at least in my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not to go back to that initial approval point, but to say what is now related to the accreditation visit that you had. And it became clear in that accreditation visit that what you're calling an intern program is really not fitting what the law says an intern program is, which is a program that is putting people into a classroom who are not fully through a teacher preparation program. They have their subject matter, and they are there because the district has a need. They can't fill positions with a fully credentialed teacher who has a regular, multiple, or single subject credential. They don't have the people available to fill those slots. An intern program is based upon that kind of need, not just a pipeline to hire, not just a part-time support for the teachers who are already employed. It's for people who are in a classroom with their own students who are not fully qualified with a credential, a regular credential, and thus they have an intern credential. And they've been hired by the district because the district could not hire fully credentialed teachers to take those positions. So forgive us for continuing to pursue this, because the program that you're describing sounds like you might try to do that in the future. If you do, that's great. It based upon a need for your district where you can't hire others, and then you develop an intern program and those people are employed from the get-go in order to finish their credential work while employed fully as teachers. So does that help you distinguish between the way we're talking about intern programs and the way you're thinking about intern programs?
We understand we look different. From the beginning, like, this program looks different than a very traditional model of an intern program. But around the criteria you mentioned, Ms. Riggs, one is around in classrooms. So they're teachers of record in classrooms. We do have the need. We do need these teachers in our schools. And they don't have a pre-service. They have not gone through a pre-service training program already. So around those criteria, we fit the definition of an intern program.
The part that doesn't appear to fit, okay, is that interns have not completed their program. Yours have not completed their program. But yours are coming into the program without having a classroom of their own and being fully employed by you as the teacher of record. You call them a teacher of record. They get a stipend and they're part-time. But they're not. An intern program is based upon a need of a district to not be able to fill their teacher positions now, not in the future. Right now, this moment in time, we have a need. And so one of the reasons we don't see very many districts who have intern programs, except for super large districts, is because most districts don't have a need for a cohort of interns in and of themselves. You wouldn't see a small district who might need 20 teachers, because those 20 teachers would be placed into classrooms as teachers of record while they finish their intern program requirements. And so the intern credential was set up to help districts that are in dire need of teachers, not to support, even though the program design that you have is beautiful and supportive of the district and the district's needs. It's not that it's just different. It's that it doesn't seem to be an intern program the way we understand intern programs, unless there's some kind of wiggle room that I'm not understanding about the way an intern credential is to be applied by districts. I don't know if that helps anymore.
It's more than just renaming your current practices to align with the standards. It's more than that. Like, for example, in January it was called a stipend, now it's called employment. It's still the same thing. You said it's the same amount. Nothing changed other than what you're calling it. And I guess the issue, as I see it, is that the program, at least from what we see, doesn't align with what is a traditional, atypical, what is a intern credential program. And so it would seem to me that, because I think that we can go around and around on this, if a way of moving forward is to accept the recommendation of the staff, allow the existing candidates to complete the year, and if you really want to put forth an intern program that aligns with the state standards, then you certainly can do that, but the one that you have now is not an intern program, according to at least how we're all seeing it. So at least that would be my recommendation.
Okay, and before we go on, Ms. Clark.
I think exactly what you're talking about is what Summit is planning to appeal to the commission at their April commission meeting. And I don't know that the commission has the legal authority to rule on it either, but that will roll out at the April 11th and 12th commission meeting. So we understand the concerns. We will work with Summit. We will work as the commission directs us. We will bring an update back to you at the next meeting. What Cheryl and I did want to bring to you was this fact that we think we allowed an overstep of what should have happened. And so we're hoping that with these assurances we've tried to suggest in this item, you would be willing to remove the one stipulation, amend the other stipulation, and then we will come back to you at your May meeting and let you know what the commission did say, what is going to happen, and we will work forward from there. We would clearly work to make sure a program meets the commission standards. We are committed to that. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say here.
Co-Chair Moore.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the, as the staff has noted in our.
Thank you. If I can direct all committee members to, if you have the report in front of you and the recommendation, so we know we're talking about removing stipulation number 4 and amending stipulation 5, and that all other stipulations from January 31st, 2019 meeting remain. Okay. A sec. Okay. Well, first a second by committee member Borges. Any further discussion?
This is a question for staff, I guess, mainly. If we voted to do this, and I see one of the ideas would be that in order to recommend current candidates for a credential, we would need to see evidence that they'd completed 600 hours of clinical practice and a couple of other things. And from what I've heard of the program, that would basically rule out all of the candidates. Is that the case, or could they achieve 600 hours?
No, I think for some of the candidates it would be fine. I think for others that have not passed the CSAT until fairly recently, that would be more challenging. So I think for some of the candidates, certainly it would be fine. We would have to work with Summit on a very much an individual candidate basis to find out whether each one individually has been able to accomplish that.
Okay, there's a motion on the table and it's been seconded. There is one thing I want to call your attention to is in the report here mentions that the COA may want to require Summit to work with staff to review each recommendation before it's submitted as described on page 2. So that was not included as part of the motion. You have mentioned in the staff recommendation, it says if appropriate, the COA may want to require Summit to work with staff to review each recommendation. Okay, so Anna, do you want to add that to the motion or no?
Yes, a friendly amendment to include, as you noted, that staff will review each recommendation. I believe that was in there.
Okay, and then the second still stand, and it was committee member Borges, right? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? No. Okay, the record, no, we have one no vote. The rest is aye votes. Motion carries. Thank you for your time and effort. We appreciate that. We want to thank William Hattrick. We want to thank Pamela Lamke, Director of Summit Teaching, and thank you, Ms. Carter. Appreciate it.
Could we, if it's okay, the institutional accreditation, is it possible to get clarity on if stipulations remain on our institutional accreditation at this point?
Yes, I think we'll what we'll have to do is amend and not amend. We'll get you a new letter that reflects what happened today.
But beyond that, in the January meeting, the committee said that they would revisit the other stipulations after we gave our report because they impact our current induction program.
Right. So
which stipulation impacts the induction? Because you're only not allowed to add new candidates for your intern program.
Yeah.
I don't see a stipulation that impacts induction at this moment.
The induction program, from my understanding, because I remember Member Riggs, you said you were fine with it, and then I think the committee went with it, that there was a met with concerns, but it wasn't a stipulation, so it can continue to operate as it has been.
And those recommendations
clear?
may go forward without any staff review.
Right,
Those are just
exactly.
submitted online as you would have otherwise.
Right. And you would remain open as an institution, an approved program sponsor, so you don't have to go through that process.
Thank you so much for that clarification.
Okay.
It's so much faster here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Sorry. Sure.
Oh, yeah. The institution is here. The team lead is having car problems, so that was the issue on William Jessup. But Jake, you can step in for them. Okay. Do we know, is Steve Davis like on the road? Is he? Okay. 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 All right. Thank you, William Jessup, for your patience.
While we're getting up, Cheryl, can I go back on the previous one on stipulation number 6 for Summit? Is that remain or is that? Okay. Got it. So that's right. Okay, that's what I want to be sure of the date. Okay. That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Should I caught that?
Learning. We're
figuring it out.
We have to show that up.
Yeah, can we?
But we never see the details, it's just based on staff recommendation.
I'm not unmute just so that he knows he's here.
One mistake doesn't make the second one okay.
Yeah.
We have to correct it.
Okay, yeah, we're good, Bob.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're going to move on to item 13, please. Item 13 is the report of the accreditation team to William Jessup University. Consultant Jake Schuler will introduce the item, and joining him at the table are team lead Steve Davis and institutional representative David Bills. You have to tell me who is here, who isn't here.
Okay.
Who do we have here, I guess you'd say?
This is David Bills.
All right, David Bills, Mr. Bills, welcome.
And this is Mike, tell me your last name. Grenchikoff.
All right, Dr. Grenchikoff, who is a Master's in Arts and Education Program Coordinator, thank you, and welcome.
Yes.
Anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Mr. Schuler, please begin.
All right. Good morning again, committee members. So William Jessup University's site visit took place from February 10th through 12th at their campus in Rockland, California. A total of 95 interviews were conducted with various stakeholders throughout the site visit, and the site visit proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. The leadership team at William Jessup was fantastic to work with throughout the year leading up to the site visit and was extremely thorough in their preparation for the visit. They also had a great website that was well organized and easy to navigate for the team. The William Jessup University team is represented here today as Bob said, by their Associate Dean, David Bills, and by Mike Grenchikoff, who is Program Coordinator for the Master's in Education program. Is that accurate? Great. Also, their Dean, Dr. Nathan Herzog, is joining us also by Zoom, and we'll work on getting him unmuted to say a few words a little later. But he could not be here with us today. And just to update you, so our team lead, Steve Davis, is working on getting his car trouble figured out and hoping to join us by Zoom or phone, but we'll continue without him for now. I'd also like to thank our site visit review team, Keith Walters and Karen Escalante, for contributing their time and expertise to this visit. The team worked diligently in preparation for the visit and worked extremely hard during the visit. I'll now stop here and turn it over to me, who will present the findings in the accreditation recommendation. All right. And I don't have Steve's exact notes, so I'm just going to work off of what I remember from him and a little bit off the report. So the first thing that I know Steve would want to say up front is that there was no doubt in the minds of the review team that the candidates and the completers from William Jessup University's programs are excellent and are supported and are getting the training and support they need throughout their program. There was no doubt about that throughout the visit. So I'm going to turn to the report to get into the specifics. So for the program standards, all program standards for their preliminary multiple subject and single subject credential programs were met, except for program standard 2 and program standard 3, which were met with concerns. Program standard 2, as you'll remember, is preparing candidates towards mastery of the teaching performance expectations, or TPEs, and program standard 3 is clinical practice. And I'll go a little bit more into those. For the common standards 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all met, and common standard 5, which is program impact, was met with concerns. The overall recommendation for the visit and for William Jessup University is accreditation with the 7th year report, and that's to address the met with concerns areas. Just to let you know, so I've been in contact with David and with Nathan, and not with Mike yet, but we started today because Mike's just recently, we found out, will join us today. Already I've talked to them about how they plan to work towards meeting some of these concerns. So let me read the rationale for the program standards. All right. So again, Program Standard 2, the title of Program Standard 2 is Preparing Candidates Towards Mastery of the Teaching Performance Expectations. So I'll read the full rationale. The program's organized coursework and clinical practice loosely articulates opportunities for candidates to learn, apply, and reflect on each teaching performance expectation. There is inconsistent evidence in regards to how candidates apply the TPEs as noted within course syllabi. Demonstration assignments, which is a term that they use for sort of their signature assessments within courses, were referenced within interviews. However, there was a lack of evidence in regards to the assignments within syllabi. The review team did not see full descriptions of demonstration assignments, evidence of completed assignments, or associated rubrics demonstrating how candidates are scored on these assignments. Okay, so that was for Standard 2. For Standard 3, there is evidence that so again, this is clinical practice. There's evidence that district-employed supervisors, and then parentheses, master teachers, are generally aware of the 10 hours of required initial orientation and professional development, as noted within interviews. However, there is insufficient evidence that master teachers are receiving the 10 required hours to ensure master teachers are effective with supervision approaches, including cognitive coaching, adult learning theory, and content-specific pedagogy. Those training hours that are occurring appear to be completed primarily to satisfy the required hours, rather than focused on the specific skills necessary for supervision as laid out in the standards. So those are for the 2 program standards. Now let me get to the rationale for Common Standard 5. So Common Standard 5, again, is program impact, and the portion of this that the report is talking about is specifically to the first component, which I'll read that component to you again. The institution ensures that candidates preparing to serve as professional school personnel know and demonstrate knowledge and skills necessary to educate and support effectively all students in meeting state-adopted academic standards. Assessments indicate that candidates meet the commission-adopted competency requirements as specified in the program standards. So that portion of the common standard was seen as inconsistently evidenced, and then I'll read the rationale for the met with concerns for the full standard. Rationale. While there was evidence that candidates are assessed on the TPEs during field experience, there was inconsistent evidence that program assessments within coursework ensure candidates demonstrate the knowledge specified in the Commission's adopted TPEs. Documents reviewed along with faculty and administration interviews provide minimal and inconsistent evidence for a systematic implementation plan or regular program reflections on student knowledge-based outcome data. Faculty and administration reference the scholarly practitioner research-based vision as the guiding principle for demonstration assignments. Okay. I think maybe I'll actually read the rationale that Steve wrote for the full thing too, just to provide a little more context. Institution summary. So this starts on page 18 of the report. As a unit within William Jessup University at large, the School of Education is guided by a clear and widely recognized mission statement and supporting philosophical framework. The mission and its philosophical foundations permeate every facet of the institution and unit, culturally and academically. Interviews with school district employers and program completers revealed that the philosophical foundations possessed by WJU teacher credential program graduates, in concert with strong teaching skills, distinguishes their qualities and performance abilities from those who graduated from other institutions. While some elements of the common standards are more fulsomely developed by the unit than others, the overall quality of the teacher credentialing program is exemplified by the strong demand for its graduates by local and regional school districts.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler. I know there are 2 more paragraphs there. Do all committee members have access to that? Okay, just to save the process. So
great.
I mean, we love your oratory skills.
All right.
But
Great.
just try to save a little time.
I'll turn it back over to you, Bob.
Back to you, Bob. All right. This is now a time for the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit itself. We remind you it's not the time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have regarding the visit.
I think I'm on. First, I want to thank the committee for hearing us today and your work. Also want to thank Stephen Davis / Jake Schuler. They're switching roles right now, but Stephen truly was very gracious and worked very hard with his team to review and be fully engaged in the process. So we appreciate that. And Jake has been very supportive and there at a beck and call whenever we needed him. And so he's very well represents CTC. So we thank them both very much. We see this process as an opportunity to grow, and so we're fully engaged with improvement process and wanting to make sure that we meet all state standards and not just meet, but really have a robust program. And so that's our goal. And so we appreciate the critique and we appreciate the support, certainly in the areas that Jake mentioned. Since then, we've thought daily about their recommendations and continue to meet. Regarding program standards 2, program standards 2 and common standard 5, really as addressing TPEs and how robustly they are developed and our students are engaged within coursework primarily. And so we are meeting with our traditional undergrad program leads and our Masters of Arts in Teaching program lead who oversee those programs, oversee the curriculum, and then and making sure that we are have a robust development program so that students are assessed within coursework as well as assessed within their student teaching program, within their student teaching hours. So we're meeting with those program leads. We certainly intend to revisit syllabi and revisit the faculty who are teaching those courses to ensure that the IPA chart clearly articulates introducing concepts, demonstrating those within courses, and then assessing them for program improvement as we go. We're actually very fortunate. We just hired as a full-time faculty member, a statewide consultant, Dr. Melissa McDonald, who's really an expert in educational effectiveness. She lives in our area. She's joining our faculty and going to work not only university-wide with educational effectiveness, but also with the School of Education.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful.
We're looking forward to that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Dr. Grenchikoff, any comments you'd like to offer?
Just as we've been discussing this, it's not limited to just those programs. We've discussed this as an entire School of Education and what we can do. And I personally have just been very impressed with the process the dean and our associate dean have put forward with just saying, hey, what What can we do to make sure that we're meeting these goals and getting feedback within the School of Education and, from what I understand, even university-wide? So this is something they're taking extremely seriously, and I'm thrilled to be a part of that process.
Great, thank you. All right, committee members' opportunity for discussion, questions. Committee member Riggs.
I just want to congratulate you. Looking, at the past history and to see this resolve is really wonderful to see. The question I have is really for the committee that visited. When I look at the number of candidates enrolled, there's a lot, 247 plus 12 more single subject. And in the multiple subject, there are 2 routes, undergraduate and grad, right? And so then when I see the number of people who were interviewed that were candidates, I don't know, it just made me wonder if there was some challenge to interviewing, because there were 26 candidates that were interviewed. And that's quite a few. When you think about 3 programs, or 2 programs, but 2 routes for one, I just wondered if you felt like there was a challenge to get candidates interviewed so that you'd have enough evidence from interviews of candidates.
I can say that the team lead and I both raised that question with the team early on. We saw that a full effort by the university to make sure that they brought in as many candidates. There was definitely not an effort to limit the amount. But we did see candidates from each pathway in each program, and the feeling of the team was that there wasn't an issue as far as consistency or needing to hear from additional candidates once they were at the end of that first day of the visit. It was still a question on the table at the beginning. By the end of the day, they felt that there wasn't a need to go out and solicit an additional big group of candidates. There was even an effort early on the second day. We got a few phone numbers of additional people. We said, can we hear from a few other people? They provided them. And the calls that the team heard, they felt that there wasn't a need to bring in another group based on what they had there.
Any other committee member? Okay, just like to call the committee members' attention to the bottom of page 2 onto the top of page 3, which are the recommendations for the report. And also explains when the recommendation the institution is authorized to offer the following credential programs and so forth. So I will dispense with reading that in its entirety, unless, Jake, you want to read that to us. Okay. All right, so is there a motion to accept the team report? So moved by Committee Member Morrison, seconded by Committee Member Alvarado. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Yeah, congratulations, Mr. Bills, Dr. Granchkoff. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Schuler, for your report. Appreciate it. Okay, looking at our schedule, we are a little ahead of schedule, so what we're thinking of doing is, I'd like to propose we come back at 12:30 for lunch, and we'll look at items. Yeah, we'll do lunch now, come back at 12:30, and then we'll do items 21 and 23, and then we have a 1 p.m. time cert, which is item number 15.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the afternoon session of the Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. We are going to start with item 21, which is the discussion of process to be used to take action with respect to late documents. Analyst Michelle Bernardo will introduce this item. Ms. Bernardo, will you begin, please?
Good afternoon. So this item presents a proposed process to be used to take action with respects to the late documents. Items that we present specifically regarding submissions of common standards, annual accreditation fees, preconditions, and program review. After much discussion at previous COA meetings, the committee has directed staff to provide a more formal process to communicate with institutions. Staff has developed a process that is provided to you in Appendix A of this item. Staff recommends that the committee approve the proposed process for actions to be taken towards institutions who have failed to meet the required deadlines. The draft that's provided to you outlines the accreditation fees, process, common standards, preconditions, and program review. So we've developed a process that identifies that we would make an initial contact for those documents that are late. So staff will communicate with them via email. We'll give them some time to send those documents back, and then the consultants will then reach back out to them again if we don't receive the documents, and then the final communication is with the administrator to send a more formal letter out to them. Any questions I can answer?
You did a really good job on this, so we don't have any questions for you. You laid it out so clear. I was seeing this, the beginning of November. It says the email is sent, and then on the other ones, the extraordinary fee, a formal letter is sent. I wonder if is there a reason why in November it's a email versus the other times that we're asking for money is a formal letter?
Is that for the accreditation fees?
Yep.
Lynette?
So once they've been determined late, notification is given to whoever is doing cost recovery fee invoices, which is me right now, and then we send out the invoice separately.
You to get the invoice until they pay, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's sort of the formality there.
Yeah. My question is, I guess I rephrase it. See about the invoice, but it's attached in the email. My concern is that the other ones have a formal letter, and I'm guessing that that's sent by snail mail. And the only reason I'm thinking this at all, the process is fantastic, is that sometimes we have that leadership change, and if it goes to, that email could get lost, and this information can get lost. So I'm thinking, do we need to follow it up with a snail mail letter or certificated mail or a CC to another person at the institution? I'm just wondering, how do we make sure that notice is given to someone? Because I know that would come up.
So I think you're talking about two separate things. They get the letter that states that they're late, or the email, and then there's probably a formal letter that goes out. The invoice is completely separate. Once that's been determined to be late, that invoice is emailed out, and we have several contacts. Fiscal, there's, so we do send it out to several people,
perfect,
recipients.
Perfect. Just wanted to,
and then if
double check that the institution receives the notice.
Right, and then if it isn't paid, another reminder goes out, or we start looking, who is not receiving this.
Yeah,
so there's always.
It's great. I love the month by month detail to that. Thank you. Any other questions? This is an action or information item. Is it draft because you're still working on it, or draft you wanted us to take a look at it and approve it?
It's a draft in case you have any edits that you'd like to add.
So, Member Alvarado.
So, there's 3 levels, right?
Right.
For the first 2, it mentions that there is a possibility of the fee, but the third one, it's for sure confirmed. What differentiates the first to the second in issuing a fee?
Are we talking about?
I'm talking specifically about annual accreditation fees. In that, there's a first courtesy reminder with possibility of a fee, and then the second or the final courtesy reminder again with a possibility of a fee, and by the third one or beginning of November, then for sure there is the fee. I guess the question is what differentiates the first possibility from the second possibility?
So I can answer that. The invoices for annual accreditation fees go out in the 1st of August. They have to be out. It's sort of like taxes. They're due and payable September. If they aren't, but they have until October 31st until they're considered late. We, as a courtesy, send a reminder out, usually the end of September, beginning of October, saying you have until October 31st, and if not paid at that point, then you will be assessed an extraordinary fee of $500, and your accreditation fees are also due, and also recommendation, the ability to recommend will be rescinded. You will not be able to do that until those fees are paid. So they get a reminder, and just as a courtesy, that their fees are due and that there will be late fees if they do not pay by October 31st.
I don't remember if in the regs it has the date. I don't think the regs have it, but that's been our practice, is that there's a little bit of a grace period, but October 31st is the date that we've set as being officially late and not having.
And is that after October 31st is when the fee is actually then applied? So why not be explicit as opposed to saying there is a possibility, just say anything after the 31st, then there is a fee, period, right?
That's a great recommendation, given all the nebulousness with our ed code and standards and what we're trying to be clear. Nice. Yep.
To
Member
the end of the
Chakowski.
day, October 31st, they're considered late November 1st.
And there will be a fee. So I think that's a good suggestion. That's actually in practice, but for some reason in here we talk about a possibility, and it's not a possibility. It is, in fact, made to be as of that date.
Okay, Member Chakowski.
As someone who got to deal with a bit of confusion about fees that resulted from bad contact information over which I had no control, I'm just wondering if, I'll back up and say I'm always interested in why people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, right? There's probably reasons for this. So I wonder if part of this process might be making secondary contact with a member of the organization that might not be the person whose name appears on the CTC website. I mean, I know this requires a lot of extra work, but if we're talking about a handful of people, perhaps part of this process could be to, in fact, verify that the contact information is still good, because that's what happened to us. We were about to be assessed a late fee. I never heard about any of the stuff because our former superintendent was still listed on the website and I was new as a program director. So I just think as a way to prevent people from becoming in arrears, that might be something to consider. I don't know.
And that we have over the years, because this has been in place now for about 5 years, I believe. Over the years, we've really tried to hone that process. So one of the things is we do definitely look at the program contact information that's on the website that each institution updates. We also have another database that we have that has updated information. So we've really tried, and then this year there's going to be even, I think, more pieces in place that will catch. But that said, currently, when we send out that reminder, we start looking at their website to make sure that maybe there isn't a change. So we're really trying to clean up that process.
I want to say this because this is a perpetual issue for us. There are 250 institutions, about 1,000 programs. I think every day we get a notice that says, you have the wrong person on this. So one of the things we're trying to do is in the accreditation data system, put all of the contact information. So it would be your TPA coordinator, it would be who gets your fees stuff, who is the unit head, and have it in one place. Right now it's in several different places. The onus is on the institution to make sure that things are updated. And when you have turnover, that's when it hits us the hardest. It's, and we do double check, but it's not always completely, timely, when things are changed at an institution. So, but we are moving towards one place for everything, and hopefully that will play out over the next year or so. But this year we added more context to the annual data system. And I'm hoping that helps rectify things, because that will drive then our website of contacts for each institution, which notifies the public who the right people are, but it also helps us understand who should get these notices.
And that would be the first time, I think, that we'll have contact information that they provide for fiscal people at their institution, and that's really who should get the invoice. So.
Yeah.
I think it's improved because in the old days, you know, there was really no accountability for the institution as to who was the head and for the public to know from the website. And you now have it institutionalized to ask the institution to update that all the time. So it's coming. It's better.
Great. So this is an information action item. No action is required unless we wish to take action. But I think we're okay. You okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bernardo.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 23. Do you want to do that? Or yeah? Well, it's up to you guys. Unless we have our 1 o'clock here. Are you ready? Can be ready? All right, let's go ahead. We will go to, what item is that? Item 15 is the report of the accreditation team to Toro University. Nice report. Okay. Consultant William Hattrick will introduce this item. Joining him at the table are team lead Brad Damon and institutional representative Justin Hurd, Assistant Dean, College of Education and Health Sciences. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? No recusals? Mr. Hattrick, will you begin, please?
Sure. Good afternoon. The accreditation site visit to Toro University of California took place on February 10th through 13th. The mission of Toro is to educate caring professionals to serve, to lead, and to teach, which was evident during the site visit. It is a unique campus located in the city of Vallejo on Mare Island on the site of a formal naval base. The site visit proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. However, one team member was unable to attend unexpectedly, and I just wanted to thank the team lead, Brad, and the other Common Standards reviewer for taking on the additional work there. Assistant Dean Justin Hurd was really responsive throughout the preparation for and during the site visit, and the team was able to access all of the information that it needed. I will now turn it over to team lead Brad Damon to discuss the standards findings and accreditation report.
All right, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank William Hattrick for his leadership and support during the visit, which was really outstanding. Very much appreciated all of that. And now to share some behind the scenes discussions from the team room and how we arrived at our unanimous recommendation for accreditation. So the team conducted 222 interviews with stakeholders. We met with candidates, completers, employers, institutional administrators, program coordinators, faculty. We met with the TPA coordinator. We met with advisors, field supervisors for the program, field supervisors in the district, credential analysts, staff, advisory committees, community partners, and the assessment committee. And there were certain themes that really jumped out at us and came out in the team room that were really impressive. And one of the big things that everyone in the team kept coming back with was all of the evidence of impact in the community, which we heard from multiple stakeholders about what a valued partner Toro University is to them. And to quote one of the superintendent's words, they wish they could clone the work that Toro is doing in the support that they give to the County Office of Ed. They were able to, the district had made some changes in terms of technology they were using in the classroom. They approached Toro and they said, look, can you add this into your curriculum and make sure that your folks are being turned out with this? And they did. And they said it's had a very positive impact on the County Office of Education and the work that the teachers are doing. Evidence of a lot of community impact. And what really stood out a lot is their commitment to promoting equity and diversity and inclusive education in their programs. And so there was so much of that came out in multiple interviews with multiple stakeholders. And so that was something that really, all the team members felt really good about the evidence of continuous improvement across their programs. And I will add, so of all of the different standards, there were really only 2 areas that were met with concern. And I'll share with you basically what those were. were related to the special ed program, and it's fairly narrow in scope. What we were looking at was to make sure that there were systems to ensure all interns in the educational specialist program got the full range of grades, ages, and disabilities associated with their authorization. So there's evidence there, but we wanted to make sure that it was more systematic across the board. And given the substantial evidence of continuous improvement systems that take place in Turo, we were really confident that they would take that advice and put it into action. And the other recommendation was related to typical and atypical human development, also in their special ed curriculum, to make sure that the candidates could demonstrate comprehensive knowledge of that in there. So it was there, but we wanted to see that strengthened, so the candidates was really clearly demonstrating that across the programs. A couple other things that were really impressive were the institutional supports at Toro University. A lot of team members were commenting. The university provides free counseling services to all of its students for any issues that come up for an unlimited number of sessions. We saw this as something that was really aligned with their vision and their commitment to social justice. So there was those components. And the other thing that was really unique was the 360-degree evaluation system that they have for their faculty. So the faculty at Toro University, people from other departments come in and they view the teaching in other areas and they give feedback. And the School of Education at Toro was a big partner in the medical programs and other areas to give feedback to their other professors to say, hey, here's some things that can improve your teaching. And then the other professors from other departments would come in and give them feedback. So this culture of continuous improvement, strong community impact were really apparent. And that was how we arrived at our findings of making that recommendation for unanimous accreditation.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
For that enthusiastic report. We now invite the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you that this is not a time to dispute the team report, but rather to provide any thoughts you had about the visit.
Thank you very much. It is a great opportunity to speak to the COA. I want to just thank the accreditation site visit team for their professionalism and collegiality, as well as William for his professionalism and guidance in the accreditation site visit. I also want to call out and just thank the entire California Commission on Teaching Credentialing staff who've supported Toro since the last 12 years. Especially Cheryl Hickey, Terry Clark is not here, Gay Roby, in terms of administration, and just so many times that the staff is so responsive to the programs. So we really, really appreciate it. They go above and beyond. They're returning emails on the weekend. They're talking to us in the evening. You all know that. And we really appreciate that. They're really supporting youth in schools, and we really appreciate that. So a few things, if you probably want to hear Toro University, California, what is that? So we're on our 12th year in the Graduate School of Education. We were founded on a $1 million federal earmark to develop and create a school of education that supports the local community. And that's exactly our values. We're really glad that the site accreditation team recognized those themes that came up in terms of connecting and partnering with school districts. We're a small graduate school of education. We have 205 students in our programs, about 130 in credential programs. But we really care about developing programs that support the local community. One other highlight that I like to share is that in the last 2 years, we've, as a college, have raised $180,000 of scholarship and tuition support to promote equity and diversity in our students and in our recruitment. And that's going to continue. So I really thought for the size of our school, that's pretty impressive, and we're going to continue those efforts. So we know all of you are supporting diversifying the teaching community, and we're supportive of that as well. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for all of your work and your volunteer work to support education.
Is everybody feeling warm and fuzzy? That was really nice. Thank you so much. I'd like to open the floor to the Committee on Accreditation for any comments or questions that you might have. Wow. You just silenced us. That's good. That's a good sign. Okay, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Motion by Member Alvarado, a second by Member Riggs. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. And thank you so much. It was a great report. Yeah, thanks. All right, ready for item 16? Gay is nodding yes. Okay, so is the discussion of the third quarterly report from Montebello Unified School District. I know, I'm like... All right, this is the discussion of the third quarterly report from Montebello Unified School District. Consultant Gay Roby will introduce this item. Joining her at the table are institutional representatives, Dr. Anthony J. Martinez, Superintendent of Schools, Francisco, I should have this name down now, Arregui. Thank you.
Arregui.
Thank you. Administrator on Special Assignments, Angelica Paz, Program Specialist, Patricia Salcido Mez, Teacher on Special Assignment. Does anybody need to recuse themselves? All right, Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Thank you. I felt like same bat station, same bat channel. We're back again with our quarterly report from Montebello Unified School District. This is their third quarterly report with a site visit scheduled for the last days of May, where we will go out and confirm the paperwork they have been submitting for a year by interviewing the candidates, the not completers this time around for what has changed, but for stakeholder groups to verify that they're walking the talk that we're seeing in the evidence pieces. This report very much builds upon the two previous ones. That's why we presented it to you with them lined up in Appendix A. They have established a lot of processes and protocols that have become aligned to the standards. What they now need is just time to make sure that those things are well established and in place, and the follow-up processes like, okay, we have the data, what am I going to do with the data? Those kind of next steps pieces need time to mature. So but they come to answer any of the questions you might have, as I will as well. To note for you, we always send the quarterly reports to our team leads as well. She has read them. They have also provided student work access to the team lead and myself, so we were able to go in and look at actual work that is being done by candidates and mentors in addition to what you have in your reports. But our team lead reported she agrees that they are making adequate progress and looks forward to the site visit at the end of May.
Terrific. Thank you, Ms. Roby. Since the team is here, I would go ahead and like to offer you the opportunity to say anything about the report that's before us today, or anything about the progress and preparations for your May visit.
Well, we'd just like to thank the commission, number one, for having us here. I know a couple have mentioned we feel like we're here all the time, almost feels like family. So thank you. And as Gay talked about, it's really just giving us a little bit more time so we can solidify the things that we say we are doing. And hopefully that visit when we come out or when you come out rather, in May, you can see the things that we say we're doing is validated during the visit. So thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank Gay. Your previous speakers were really kind, and I think we often forget to thank the support that we're getting from the commission, but especially Gay as the consultant. So we are constantly looking at our feedback, and I think that's one of the reflections that as program team we're looking at and learning from everything that we're getting from all stakeholders. So it's constantly improving, and we're hoping, and we are actually excited about your visit to share what we've learned and what we've done. But and just in response to some of the stipulations in terms of numbers, we have continued to enroll new candidates to our program as recent as February 26th. So it was due February 28th, and we were collecting mid-year feedback from our candidates, and addressing all of their concerns as well with the mentoring support that they're receiving, as well as the mid-year program and where they're at. So we're excited. We're meeting with our triads, with our principals and our mentor groups, as well as the induction candidate, and really having that opportunity to share with their site administrators their goal and their progress towards their ILP. So that's been exciting as well. Let me see what else. I'll let Patty go.
Hello. I think the biggest part of this piece of growth that we've seen are the evaluations that we've been conducting and the collaboration with other departments, and not just getting these evaluations but taking it to the next step. So we are actually, as we're making growth, perhaps a candidate's concerned about their collaborative mentor and really fine-tuning that relationship. We're also then planning simultaneously for next year. So we have our war room in my office where we're planning for next year simultaneously what worked and what did not, the types of surveys that were effective and the ones that didn't give us the feedback we really wanted, but also looking at how to support from August on, bringing our orientation up and also looking at other stakeholders who could be involved. So we're doing both at the same time, and it's a great reflection for us. Thank you.
I also just wanted to echo what our colleagues have shared with us this afternoon. Definitely the voice that has been captured by our mentors and our support personnel for our candidates is very much appreciated. Personally, as a school district, using that information as we continue working for our recruitment and retention, and just being mindful of the variables that are associated with teacher quality, I think is something that we're also been very much appreciative of the input that we've received here as we continue striving to prepare our students as best as possible. So definitely being very mindful of the recruitment and the retention for the Montebello Unified School District, and ensuring that our candidates are receiving that preparation where they're able to not only acquire, let's say, the theory, but really be able to demonstrate the application of the knowledge and the skill set that we attribute to student performance. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments. I'd like to open the floor to the Committee on Accreditation for any comments or questions that you have. Yes, Member Chakowski.
Yeah, thank you for coming again. And maybe it's stating the obvious, but the fact that superintendent comes to represent the induction team is awesome. It says a lot about where your organization's at. I mean, not like the rest of us aren't important, but, you know, the boss is important. And I appreciate your references to, you know, tracking efficacy and trying to find out what data are actually useful in making improvements, and how do we find something that is useful to us, and then how do we watch it over time. Those are almost two different projects, right? Coming up with the right data in the first place is the first step, and then figuring out how to capture it and look at it in a systematic way moving forward. That's what will institutionalize, right, the benefit of your program. I'm in the same place you are, you know, where our site visit is in October, and so I learn a lot from you every time you're here. Thank you.
All right. This is an information action item, so we don't need to vote on anything unless we want to. We will see them back here for the fourth report, which is actually the site visit report. Site visit is
29th through 31st.
Okay. And I'm sure you're just going to have a great time. It's going to be lots of fun. You have Ms. Roby to lead the way, so you're in good hands. Thank you for your third report, and again, your dedication to coming here and talking with us. It's really nice. Not everybody has that luxury or can take the time, and I'm glad you're making it a priority, so thank you for coming to see us again. Okay.
In the audience again. Do you want to do that one?
Which item?
This would be jumping to 18.
All right, 18.
June?
1:45.
Can we have you up at the table? We'll go ahead and go early if we have the team lead available.
And she can. Item 18 is the report of the accreditation team to Biola.
Let's make sure we
University.
have. Hold on one second. The team lead was on a little while ago. We just need to verify that again.
Mm-hmm.
All these little pieces we have to.
Do we make it a joke? Take on conductors, right? So how many conductors that take to score a light bulb? No one knows because nobody watches. What's that?
He is on a roll today. I know. It's been wonderful.
Who's there? Katie's ready? Because I emailed. Oh, here she is. Okay. They're ready too. Do you want us to hop to the next one? Okay. Okay. So we can do the item 17 real quick. Sorry. Thank you, June. Sorry.
Up, down, up, down. All right. Which?
Let's make sure we have them on. Katie, can you hear us first?
Katie
Yes,
Croy,
I can.
Are you?
Great.
Yay. All right. Item 17 is the discussion of the 7th year report from CSU San Bernardino. Consultant Dr. Katie Croy will introduce this item. She is joining us via technology, as are the institutional representatives, Dr. Jake Zhu, Interim Dean, College of Education, and Marita Mahoney, Office of Assessment and Research.
You can stay.
No one needs to recuse themselves. Is that what we're saying? All right. Ms. Croy, will you begin, please?
I will. Well, it's a pleasure to bring this 7th year report because immediately CSUSB started their response and work fervently with communities, with folks out in their candidate pool, and everyone in their institution began to be involved in these two areas. As a refresher, the standard 1 was the research-based vision needed to be included. It was a lack of focus. And then in standard 2, they needed to have admission support and monitoring across the programs to be able to ensure that they had diversity and current candidates as part of the underrepresented community of candidates. They wanted to ensure that these were across all programs. And starting with Common Standard 1, I just want to make a couple of comments about the outreach that went on during this to all of the faculty, and they involved folks in the community and the candidates, and were really assuring that they were focused on the correct research base for their vision and mission. This has been an ongoing process. They have approved the new vision and mission, and they have plans in all of their future agenda items to continue to revisit this frequently so that they can ensure that they're on the right track. So I feel like they have done an excellent job of working on that. And then in the candidate recruitment and support, it goes even further as far as outreach and how they were to ensure that they were involving everyone from the dean's cabinets to across the unit department meetings. Teacher education districts were involved, assessment committees. And they had a great many of the folks that were just involved in ensuring that they did have now a new focus on this diversity piece. And for those of you who have been familiar with CSUSB in the past, their diversity was always high. They had a great diverse candidate population, faculty, everyone across the board. But what the team found was that the focus wasn't there to ensure that that continued, and that it wasn't just an automatic expectation that they would always have that wonderful diverse piece. So they have included funding and grants and have put a lot of money behind those mini grants and ensured that they have now an outreach program that has a focus on this, and that their department and chairs are all aware of this information, and that the campaign really is to foster this partnership with districts that ensure that they have that continued diverse piece. They have added to it a focus on various candidates that are already out in the field and bringing them back in to ensure that they are showing how these candidates are working in the field and how they're being supported, as well as in the program, and outreaches to K-12 districts and schools to ensure that that focus is there. The website has been updated. They have now new folders and visions, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's quite extensive, the work that they've done. So I want to commend them for this, and I want to recommend that the COA accept their work as fully meeting those areas of concern.
Thank you, Ms. Croy. At this time, I'd like to invite the members from the institution to comment on the report if they'd like to add anything or enlighten us in any other way.
This is Jake Fu. I'm the interim dean. I just want to thank the commission and everyone. Thank our Dr. Croy for your help. We finally see each other on the screen, and we've phoned several times. I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our work. And we've done a lot, like Dr. Croy said. I'm not going to repeat what's stated here. I think I'm going to defer that to. I'm going to just, if you have questions from any commissioners, from anybody, would like to provide further information. And also, I want my colleague, Dr. Mahoney, do you have anything you want to add to this?
I will just say that the last year has been a very productive and growth year for us as well. We've been able to focus on areas that we just needed to formalize and standardize a little bit more. So we've had some wonderful conversations. And as far as for Standard 1, although we have a new vision and mission statement, it was a really reaffirmation process too. So that was really interesting for us to find that we are still on the same path. And as a college, we are still very cohesive and all working towards the same things. So I'm with Dr. Drew as well. We're excited, looking forward, and we are also would like to know any questions that the commissioners may have to help them understand the process that we've gone through.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the committee members of the Committee on Accreditation to ask any questions that you might have of this report. Yes,
I'd just like to commend Cal State San Bernardino in the work they've done to shore up the areas of concern. I think it certainly shows a commitment to ensuring that our candidates receive the best program possible. So thank you for that.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Nope. All right. We'll accept the report. This is not an action item, and we look forward to seeing you again, Ms. Croy. Thank you so much. We miss you today, but we're glad you could join us via technology for this report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Well, I didn't get a chance to say the Palm Desert deal. I was gonna make an offer. Well, really, Jose, we gotta keep him as a friend. Last time he said the same thing.
I was kidding.
We gotta keep him as a friend. No, he's the dean from San Luis Obispo.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's our dean. We knew.
San Bernardino.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, all right. That brings us to item 19. Are we on item 19 now? No,
we do.
Oh, okay, 18.
Jill, are you on Zoom? Are you on mute?
I am unmuted, but the host muted my video.
Okay, I think that
I think we're
there
ready
you
to
are.
go now.
Fantastic.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right. Item 18 is the report of the accreditation team to Biola University. Administrator Erin Sullivan will present this item. Joining her at the table is institutional representative June Hetzel, Dean, and on video, team lead Dr. Jill Hamilton Bunch. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? No recusals. Ms. Sullivan, will you begin, please?
Sure, thank you. So the site visit to Biola University took place last October, actually, the 28th through the 31st. And it took place on their campus in La Mirada, California. It was lovely weather. Thank you, June. I'm pulling strings for that. Biola School of Education offers multiple and single subject, education specialist mild moderate, speech language pathology, and general ed induction programs. Because of the proximity of the site visit to the November COA meeting, it wasn't possible to bring this report to you then. And then, of course, scheduling pushed us to March. So this is why we're here now with an October visit. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Team Lead Jill Hamilton Bunch.
Good afternoon, and I'm joining you remotely today, so excited to be in the room. We reviewed 4 programs for Biola, preliminary multiple single subject, preliminary education specialist mild moderate, speech pathology, and teacher induction. So those were the 4 programs that we looked at. As you can see in the report on page 3, I'm sorry, that's actually page 4. We conducted many interviews. As you know, some of those are represented twice in those numbers, but it was a very thorough accounting of community members, team members at the institution. We had a lot of opportunity to interact and intersect with those in the program and alums, and it was one of the most thorough experiences I've had as a team lead, as far as just getting a lot of input and lots of opportunities to speak with those who are part of the program and affected by the program. We are recommending full accreditation, and all standards were met in all four areas. There were no concerns on the visit. I want to speak particularly about our conversations with the local community that Biola serves, and how highly they were praised by their community stakeholders and their partners in the community. To a person, there was just high praise for the program and how it affects the students in their community in the K-12 setting. So I just wanted to make sure that we made that clear. That's not always clear in the report, but it was quite glowing, especially from those local community members. So I just wanted to make sure that we made that known as well. So a wonderful review and full accreditation, all standards met, and I'll turn it back over to Erin and June.
Thank you for that report. We appreciate your effort as a team lead to make the visit smooth and a good experience for the institution. I'd like to invite Dean Hetzel to make comments. This is not a time to argue the report, and we just like to offer you the opportunity to speak to your experience with the visit.
Comments. First, I do want to thank the visiting BRI team who reviewed Biola's CTC unit. And the visit was pleasant, and it was thorough, and if I dare say, even fun. Our visiting members and lead and consultant really, they were very thorough, but they caused us to work very hard, but the results were positive, and it was a very unifying experience. And the team was professional, collegial, well prepared for the visit. And their questions, both before the visit and during the visit, caused us to think increasingly deep about the questions regarding preparing teachers for the field. And then I do want to thank my team, because without the team, this would not have happened. We're thrilled to have the result of having all standards met or recommended. And Dr. Carolyn Bishop, who's also a member of the BRI team and serves regularly, was greatly instrumental in helping us with the website, and our multiple and single subject directors, both Carolyn and Dennis Eastman, did the first part for their program on the website, did the first IPA matrix, and then the other directors followed suit. And it was a little bit, stressful as we thought about a few new programs had been launched since our last visit. So Dr. Robin LaBarbera had written the Education Specialist Credential Mild Moderate, both a traditional and intern pathway. And so we were so pleased for the results of that. And Christy Curtis had the lead for the Clear Induction program. And Dr. Tanya Dantema worked in the science area with the speech language pathology credential embedded into the master's program. And we were so happy as our CT unit has expanded at Biola. And I wanted to comment on the experience of the cycle, being part of the BIR and having experienced many visits at schools in the previous format, as well as the new format now, having been on 2 visits in the new format. I think that both as per institution being reviewed or as the team of BIR reviewing, that there's been many positive changes, and especially as far as from the viewpoint of being reviewed, I really enjoyed having the monthly CTC consultant standing meeting with Erin because I knew it was always there. I would collect my questions and be able to bring those questions regularly and knew that she would have space for those questions. And then on some of the monthly visits, I could bring in some of my directors who had specific questions that maybe I wasn't as clear on as I needed to be. Erin would either immediately have the answer or find the answer very rapidly for us. And so I felt supported, and our team felt supported in that sense. The whole process felt organized and systematic, and there were no surprises, so really appreciated that. And Jill mentioned our Sunday afternoon, which was, of course, the first day where we brought in the partners, and that for us was just so affirming and unifying to see so many superintendents and principals and partner teachers, cooperating teachers, completers, current students, et cetera, just all there together. And being able to have such a positive result was really such a celebratory event for all of us. And then from the standpoint of a reviewer, in the teams that I've served on, I've really liked having the website ahead of time, because as a reviewer you really feel like you know the institution before you get there. It lowers your stress as a reviewer, and it gives you more space to focus on the important questions that actually are the cutting edge growing questions of the institution. And it allows for more sleep while you're on the review team. And so for that, I really appreciate that. And so in summary, I just want to thank our team, our visiting team under the leadership of Jill and Erin, and then our team at Biola and our community and the commission for the opportunity to collaboratively contribute and positively contribute to the education of our K-12, P-12 public students, so that we can really collaboratively and contribute to a more educated society that can be more just for California's future. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dean Hetzel. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the Committee on Accreditation to offer up any questions or comments. Yeah, Member Chakowski.
Thank you for your comments from kind of both sides of the fence. I find that validating for this whole process and system that we're participating in, that you can see it from both directions, and that the goal of this entire process isn't just holding the line on seeing things in a static way, but pushing people forward for the improvement of the system on behalf of kids. And, you know, your final sentence kind of used that word, you know, a more just system. And I think that's what we're all striving for. So it's kind of nice to hear you reflect on how that goal is achieved through both sides of this process. You know, it's cool. It works.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, this is an action item. Member Alvarado moves to accept the report. Member Borges is the second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Sullivan and Dr. Hamilton Bunch, for your efforts in making such a successful visit.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Bye.
Trying to get the next ones on a little earlier. Oh, 23? What's 23?
Discussion of survey results.
Yes, that's what I meant, 23, sorry. I think we have right now, we've been able to reach Saugus for 145, right? Okay, so, and we'll continue to try to reach Newark. Okay,
Okay, so that takes us to item 23, which is the discussion about the use of survey results in accreditation. Administrator Cheryl Hickey will present this information item. Ms. Hickey, will you begin, please?
Sure. So we presented this agenda item that starts on the next page after the cover page to the commission at the last commission meeting. You all might remember that our chair, Linda Darling Hammond, who is no longer our chair because she's moved over to the state board, this was a really high priority for her in terms of making sure that we have survey results and move the accreditation system to some outcomes considerations. And so we have been making incremental progress through the last few years on surveys. Last year, I know we reported to all of you that our survey responses on program completers, thanks to all of the work at your institutions, has really increased. And so we've been able to, at least this year, incorporate those survey results into our accreditation team discussions. The teams actually have access to them. We hit a little snafu this year with the differences in the way that CSU and CTC were reporting some of the data, so we had to recalibrate and kind of work with them. So the program completers for multiple and single subject, and I think ed specialists we released them to the institutions and then we had to rescind them for a moment, and now they're back up to the on the website and back to the institutions. So there was a little problem with, basically things were in the inverse. So something that was being reported as being a negative was really being reported as a positive, or the opposite. So it was just a little technical glitch, I guess you'd say. But anyways, so the work in and around the survey work continues really strongly. One of the things that our commission really wants to do is to increase the commission's awareness of what those surveys say, and then what does that mean for accreditation when an institution is not necessarily going through an accreditation site visit in that year. So we mentioned that, the site visit teams have access to the survey data and can then begin to, if there's questions about whether candidates are feeling prepared in a certain area, they can follow up with that. But that's only 1/7 of the institutions every year. So what happens with the remainder of the institutions if we see some data that might be questionable or might raise some red flags for us? And so we're trying to figure out a way to kind of look at that data, both at the statewide level and then drill down into the institutions to see if we might need to open a dialogue with the institution, or, let's say everything looks really negative, which it hasn't happened yet, but then we might have a way to bring that to you all where you say, I think we need a site visit team to go out to this institution. So we're trying to, the problem is the numbers, the sheer number and workload that's involved in that. So one of the things we've been doing is our technical staff, Fifi Lau, who you've probably met before, who does a lot of our dashboards, is actually developing some internal dashboards. These would not be public dashboards, but internal dashboards where we could flag certain things. And so for instance, there are some questions that are directly related to the standards. So there are things like in induction, when a mentor match is done with the candidate. And so there's pretty specific language in the standards related to that. And so we could say if we begin to see a certain value or something coming up, we need to flag that so that we can make direct contact with an institution saying, hey, this is what your data is showing. That's a problem, that you're not meeting standards immediately. But then there are lots of questions that are more, I would say, subjective or quality indicators. And those are a little harder because the mean doesn't necessarily mean much, but the range may mean something. So we've started thinking about how do we look at this on an annual basis? What do we need to do? And we decided that we need a staff team to really begin to look at this. That includes some of our assessment people, some of the folks that really know a lot about survey development, and also the program-specific experts. So like, for instance, as we're looking at administrative services responses, we would include GAY in those discussions as we, so we can look at that and determine okay, I think, Gay, you need to reach out to these 3 institutions because this is what we're seeing in the survey data, and then go from there. I mean, we're not starting with a punitive nature. We're starting with, okay, what is the data beginning to tell us? And is the institution aware of it, and are they doing something about it? So we're trying to develop these dashboards, internal dashboards that might help us with the workload. We're trying to build a team internally to figure out how to process this information and what it means. And of course, to bring to the COA, at least annually, some sort of summary of what we're seeing so that you can help us kind of figure out how do we move this work forward. The commission was thrilled with this work. They are really happy to see the use of surveys in a real way. And we're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. So it was part of the whole strengthening and streamlining approach that we attempted. But that's sort of where we're at. One of the things we did was began some of the analysis. So, for instance, when I looked at the administrative services, it was really clear to me, and I just use that as an example because at the time that we did this report, the multiple single and ed specialist reports were down. But we looked at it, and you could see that overall things looked really positive. They were in the 98, 99 percentile across the board in terms of candidates feeling prepared. But as you drill down, you see that there might be an issue here or there. So one of the issues that, as you look at the data, it said that probably more than normal of the numbers of candidates said that they felt unprepared about developing budgets. And so that might be an area where we work with, and it seemed to be across the board. So that might be an area where we work with CAPIA or work with the institutions. So it's not a ding so much as, and it also may be that programs are meeting the standards. It's just that the candidates feel like they need a little bit more. So that might be something we just reach out to either the professional organizations or make sure that the institutions know about it. But then there were some other areas, and it was a very small number of areas because, as I said, these were very positive. And the other areas, there was, as you look at the data, 2 or 3 institutions that really had a higher number of, I'd say, negative responses, if you can call it that. But they also might be the really large institutions. So maybe as we looked at the numbers of candidates responding in that way, they may be just reflective of the average of everything else. So there's a lot of drilling down work that still needs to be done. But that's essentially what we're trying to do, and trying to figure out how to build that into the current workload is the biggest challenge. So that's sort of where we are with this process. Any questions, any suggestions, anything? This is a continual process, so. Yes.
Sure. Member
Great report. I think it's great that we're, trying to look at, so, we do all of this and all this stuff. And so what does that mean in terms of employers and candidates, once they're out in the field? So this is absolutely important. For next year's report, on page 2,
okay.
You note the CSU Center for Teacher Quality. That's no longer the name of the center.
Oh, okay,
It's
yes.
actually Educator Quality Center.
Great.
In that we no longer just conduct surveys for teacher credential candidates.
Thank you.
So educator is broader. And
Thank you very much. And we want to continue to work and coordinate there. We don't. I think part of the problem there is survey fatigue, and we're trying to really hard to work with the other institutions and those that, and CSU is the largest, of course, that have other surveys, so that employers aren't getting hit with 12 different surveys or program completers or whatnot.
Ms. Roby?
And Cheryl might have said this when I was daydreaming at the moment, but another piece is terminology. For instance, in the prelim, when there's a field supervisor and a program supervisor, do they really know what those people are so they could identify them or not? Back to BITSA and the box.
Member Tchaikovsky?
Yeah, I really appreciate both the report, but also the effort to collect objective, ex post facto feedback for programs. And I know that we sit there, and I have it on my calendar like October, do we have the email yet? And my mentors asked, they're like, what did the completer survey say? Like, people are interested in that. So when we talk about like survey fatigue, I like to think that we suffer less from survey fatigue because our participants have come to understand that we will respond and we will do something with the data. So, I mean, I've showed, this is what we do on orientation. I'm like, hey, this is what your pals from last year had to say about this program. Our goal is to ensure that we get the same kinds of results this year. And if we're not doing something that's going to give us like positive responses from people who have no, there's no reason for them to say good things about us unless they're true, then, we're doing something wrong. So that, I think, and then I think, I'm assembling my website and everything for our program review, and all I'm really required to do is include them. Like, I have to show that I can put my hands on them and like post them on the website. And I know that's a first start, but I think, it might be a useful part of this process to ask, I don't know if I want to ask for more stuff to do, but expect the program to describe conclusions reached from the survey. Maybe that could be a standard part of program review, is to have us reflect on the same things. We saw these things, you saw these things. Do they coincide? What does that mean? Do we both find the same things? And I think also it'll help teach, I think of our colleagues at Montebello and other places, like it helps. I mean, we're not born knowing how to do program evaluation. This isn't something that many of us have much experience in, and yet we are held to the standard where we have to make growth transparent, we have to make proficiency evident. It's a huge part of the new induction standards, thank goodness, that teachers be proficient in their craft, right? So we have to kind of help each other learn how to make those arguments, right, using this really powerful set of data. I love that it's aligned with the CSTPs. I love that it's broken into these like groups. We've hitched our horses to the UDL wagon this year, in large part because special ed was an area where we saw that we needed to ensure that teachers had more development. And it's fundamentally shaped the direction of our program this year for the betterment of students, right, which is what this is all about. So absolutely worth all your time from my little vantage point.
Okay. Thank you. Member Krisha?
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. To follow with that, I think, as we're doing the annual, the ADS reporting, when we're putting in a lot of those statistics and everything, I think there's room in there for some type of a prompt that says, hey, have you looked at such and such survey results? And maybe some type of leading question that could lead us to give those responses, because the ADS system, I know it's, in its infancy, more or less, and it is somewhat frustrating, but I think part of that frustration is it doesn't necessarily have the room for us to interpret or to put the data in as our programs do it, because every program is different. So I think that some type of prompt that kind of reflects on those survey results, or helps us to reflect on the survey results, and also has some room in there to say, hey, our data looks like this, and this is why.
That's great. That's helpful. Well, and what we found is that there may be issues with institutions that can be flagged this way, but there also can be issues that are statewide, like everybody's struggling with the same thing. And then maybe there's either we could bring people together to talk about, hey, look, most candidates are saying this, across the board, what can we do to help each other? And so there's a lot of, I think, opportunity for not only institutions in using theirs, but for us as a state to kind of figure out, maybe the standards need to be clearer, maybe the expectations need to be clearer, maybe we need technical assistance, maybe we need expertise. There's a lot of different things where we could go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we can discover those things in a shorter amount of time. Yes.
Just want like super quick. So you mentioned like statewide data, and I found that kind of interesting because I find that one of my kind of peripheral roles is spin doctor and advocate of all that is good for new teachers and the future of public education in California, right? So I look at those data, and of course I want to have reassurance that my district's program is performing. We get conditioned to norm, right? We want to be better than the norm. And I had to be really careful when I read those results because I was like, oh, look at this. Statewide feedback on induction is universally positive. This is something that we all need to take to heart as we go back to our stakeholders and our constituents and community members. Despite the fact that people are required to do this thing, and despite the fact that it could cost them money, look at the positive validation across the board through California that these people who are forced to do this thing are saying about it after the fact. So, I mean, to me, that's a powerful testament for the value and benefit of all the hard work that everybody in this room does on behalf of, in my world, Induction.
All right, that was a spirited conversation, but super exciting, right? We love this data, and it gives us our third point to move forward. And having been in the induction world since I think 2005 was when I did my dissertation on induction, and just to have seen what the changes that have gone through, and they're all data-driven changes, and the beginning ones took so long to make. I mean, you had to wait 5 years for something to change, and now we've got this data, and we can affect change within 18 months. Still not as quick as sometimes we'd like, but it's better to be sure than to make a decision that we don't want to live with. So thank you for that conversation. That is not an action item. It's just an information item. Thank you, Ms. Hickey, for all your hard work. What item do we have our next time certain? Newark?
Yes, that can be back to back.
Oh.
I think Leonora's.
Let's see if we.
Good afternoon. Hello.
I recognize that voice. All right. Item 19 is is the discussion of the third quarterly report from Newark Unified School District. Consultant Lynette Roby will present this item. Joining her via video technology is institutional representatives Leonore Rebusura, Director of Teacher Induction, and looks like there's someone else there with you, Leonore.
The Associate Superintendent of Ed Services, Leticia Salinas.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Roby, does anyone need to recuse themselves? Okay. Member Amos is recusing. Anybody else? All right. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm pleased to bring before you the third quarterly report for Newark Unified School District. And as a reminder, Newark's site visit was in April of 2018, at which time they received accreditation with probationary stipulations. As Gay stated, this third quarterly report builds upon the last two, and the last one, the most recent, was brought before you in January of the January meeting. And at that time, after some discussion, you had two additional questions for them on two topics. One was the viability of Newark Unified School District's plan for, at that time they had planned on having department chairs be designated as lead mentors. And then the second thing was there was a question about the types of district resources that are being supplied in support of the induction program. You have the copy of the full report, but I'm just going to highlight a couple things that I think are really important about this quarterly report. First, regarding the concern about the department chairs being lead mentors. Well, Newark Unified School District revised its lead mentor plan, and they now will have two lead mentor positions, one at the elementary level and one at the secondary level. And the lead mentors will support up to 12 mentors, and that will change depending on the ratio. So if the ratio goes up higher than one lead mentor to 12 mentors, they would hire additional lead mentors. And the lead mentors will be provided a stipend and will have up to 5 days of release time per year. The responsibilities of the lead mentors will include acting as a member of the Newark Teacher Induction Leadership Team, meeting monthly with the program director, attending all advisory council meetings, facilitating mentor workshops at least 4 times a year, and maintaining and sustaining communication with the mentors and candidates. Regarding the type of resources that are being provided in support of the induction program, they've provided a list on page 19 of some of those resources, but it's important to note that they did clarify that their induction program is included within the Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP. And finally, in this report, although it wasn't asked for, they did supply updates on their mentor and candidate numbers, as well as they provided some updates regarding the data that they're collecting. Their revisit will be the first week of May. And so with that, Leonore and Letitia are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. I would like to call upon the institution to offer any comments or talk about the report and its contents.
I was able to share the information about the lead mentors to our mentors last night at our mentor workshops and the principals today at the district leadership team, and both groups received it very well. I actually may have 2 interested parties already for the lead mentors, so we're looking forward to actually receiving their application packet, and hopefully Advisory Council and I will be able to review the applications before this school year ends and have this new leadership team, be ready for next school year.
Great, thank you. Superintendent, any thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Right. Well, I think just that we appreciate that the crux of this is how do we build capacity, and we are wholeheartedly in support of the funding that goes to this work, but I think it's more than funding, and it's building capacity with our teachers as leaders. And so when Leonore and the advisory council started to talk about this and come up with a suggestion, we thought this really is on target. And then talking with our teachers and with our principals, really seeing how this can be systemic through our district to have this capacity building for our teacher leaders.
Yep. When I was reading the report, I was very excited. I thought, this is a really neat idea. It's unique. It's going to be a really good thing for you. And I agree with the building capacity, building your leaders right there internally. That's wonderful. Thank you for your comments. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the rest of the committee to ask any questions, clarifications, comments. Well, very thorough report, so thank you for that, and well done. You're obviously making progress and very dedicated to addressing the comments and the concerns that we had earlier in the year, so well done. Good luck. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of work to do to set up this new part of the system, but you've got people waiting in line, so good job. Yeah. Way to pitch it, Lenore. So this is an information or action item, but I think we'll just say we're going to accept the report. And thank you so much for joining us and coming a little bit early today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
I don't know. Let me just turn it off. There we go. It's so interesting.
Convey any comments that you have.
I don't know. I had lots of concerns.
Yes, I know. I think so.
It doesn't always happen this early, but I'm feeling it.
I think you're feeling the end of the meeting, so that's good.
Maybe.
It is the time change.
All right.
All right, item 20 is the discussion of the third quarterly report for Saugus Unified School District. Consultant William Hattrick will present this action item. The institutional representative is short notice unable to join us at this time. Does anyone need to recuse themselves?
Yes.
No? All right, Mr. Hattrick, will you begin, please?
Sure.
All right, this agenda item provides information on the third quarterly report submitted by Saugus Union School District, resulting from stipulations at their April 2018 site visit. The final quarterly report will be discussed at the May COA meeting. This report focused on stipulations 1, 2, and 4, as stipulation 3 was addressed during the first quarterly report back in November, I believe. In regards to stipulation 1 and having a research-based vision of teaching and learning, the COA requested more information regarding the Center for Educational Leadership, or CEL, frameworks. For your reference, the 5 dimensions of teaching and learning, or 5D, and the rubric, or 5D+, have been included in appendices C and D. A crosswalk between the CSTPs and the 5D framework is in Appendix A. The vision for the Santa Clarita Valley Consortium Teacher Induction Program, which is sponsored by Saugus USD, aligns with the CEL drive to not only close the achievement gap, but to eliminate it. Related to stipulation 2 and efforts to recruit, hire, and retain candidates to diversify the educator pool, demographic completer survey data was shared with the steering committee during their February meeting, and additional strategies to recruit candidates were shared, including opportunities for classified staff to continue their education, reaching out to IHEs, targeted recruitment at CSU Northridge, and holding their own job fair. For stipulation 4, more information was requested showing that mentors are receiving formative feedback on their work. Since the last quarterly report, a reflection tool has been implemented so mentors can reflect on their own practice. There is an example for you in Appendix B. Mentor observations by the induction coordinator and lead mentors are currently in progress so that program leadership can provide formative feedback. And Amy Gaudette is the induction coordinator. She's, I don't believe, on with us yet. Let me see if I have an email from her, and she may not be. So I will try to answer any questions you might have as best as possible.
She had an emergency, right?
Yes, yeah, at her school.
Okay, thank you for carrying forward with this report. Does anybody from the committee have comment or question for Mr. Hattrick? Okay, we accept the report. Thank you so much, and whoops, thank you. The last page has some very particular items on it. Public comment. Does any member of the public have anything it wishes to say? What? 21? We did that this morning. We did it this morning. So adjourn. Having no further business, I adjourn the March 2019 meeting of the Committee on Accreditation. The next meeting of the committee will be on May 2nd and 3rd, 2019. There was no public comment, right? Nope. Okay. All right. Safe travels, everyone. If